Hello, and this is Spotlight, recorded live here on GRAPPL Patreon on a Monday night. I'm Benno.
I'm JP.
And I'm Gareth.
And right into it, lads. None of that Tony Khan stuff, he says, as I'm about to spend the next 15 minutes moaning about the length of the pay-per-view. But how's it going? How's the chat going? How are you, JP? Have you caught up on your sleep yet? There might be a reason the show's on a Monday night and not a Sunday. I did tell you in our group chat I was up till 9 in the morning overnight on Saturday night. I knew it was bad when I was sat there with a beer in my hand at 7:30, and then I had a coffee in my hand at 8:30, and I was like, yeah, okay, this has gone long. I had nostalgia for the old days of long AEW pay-per-views, but gotta say, at my age, mate, it's catching up to me.
It's funny you mention that. I think the last one was the 2002 World Cup, where it was very much socially acceptable to start drinking at like 6:30 in the morning. And I used to love that stuff. The noise you could hear there in the background, that's the reason why I generally don't sleep. Like, when sleep is a non-starter of an option. But it was particularly brutal to get to sleep around 4 a.m. to then be woken up at 6:30. And it just fucked me for like fucking day and a bit. So I was a shambles on Sunday because of this show. But I will be saying some good things there as well.
How about you, Gareth? Good to have you on the show. Matty did his best to railroad it and get you away, mate. But I always believed in you. You were going to get that. It was funny when I messaged you on Sunday afternoon. It was like, I'm guessing it was like 2 or 3 p.m. like UK time, and you were already 4 hours into the paper. I was like, yeah, that's our Gareth. I reckon you just stayed out on an all-night bender and hit play on Triller when you got back. That's the GRAPPL Gareth way of playing.
Nah, you knew I had to be sober and watching it properly. Like, so it was. I was up nice and proper for it after the night out there. I didn't stay the course as long as Matty did on Saturday night. He managed to be still there in the K1 with Chris LeMay and Dean Allmark and Mad Dog and
Dean
things
Allmark.
like that.
Just casually chucked in there.
Too extreme.
Until 4 a.m. But yeah, I by the time, given that I got the call from the Ogdens that they were getting into Crosby at 11:20 in the morning, so I had a Guinness in my hand at 11:40 on Saturday morning. By the time it got to 12:30, I put a decent shift in there, and my belly was saying, "Get me chips," kind of thing. So I was having to make a sneaky exit from the K1 there, but without Matty collaring me and keeping me there for another hour on the Red Stripe or the Fireballs, I think, as those lads were getting onto when I left.
Mate,
I was sent an image by somebody who'll remain anonymous. Let's call him. I don't know, LF Blank. No, sorry, Blank Doom. How about that? We'll call him that. That's their cover name of Matty stood in the K1 Rock Bar watching the opening match, the Saturday night's main event that just happened to be a Randy Orton match, just the main event of All In It. And I was thinking, there's no way Gareth's still there. Gareth is definitely either tucked up in bed or he's in the back of a cab trying to watch the main event of All In. But actually, now you say it, I should have known better. With your meticulous note taking, there was no chance of that.
I was up nice and breezy on Sunday morning, not feeling rough, surprisingly, so I could hit play and get right into it at 9 a.m. and yeah. But just by the time I went to bed on Sunday, could almost got to the end of it as well.
Just finished here. Yeah, I reckon Dean Allmark probably did that when he got back from the Crazy House, and then he watched that Toni Storm and Mercedes match. He was like, "Hang on, that's my move." I know that weird like hip swivel. That's his, isn't it? I was watching it going like Taz was going. I've seen that somewhere. I was like, I know where I've seen that on Twitter from Dean Allmark. So yeah, maybe he was celebrating or commiserating on the Saturday night. But we talk around it. It's the only way to kind of open this, JP. And I know I've been there. I've listened to podcasts. I know it's annoying. Like I know, so I feel like we should get it out the way, like on the length of the show conversation. And I don't even think it needs to be that deep. I've been arguing with people on Twitter like this last week, and it's not even the fact that I'm over here. You know me, like I joke that I was still up at 9 in the morning. It's actually not that unusual for me. And back when it was like, if it was on like late night UK time, that's quite normal for me as well. I feel like this one, and I don't think we've made this complaint in a while. Like, I think the argument is less. I'm not even going to make like the intellectual argument of like quietening down the crowd or hating the main matches, because I don't think it did. If anything, I think the crowd were quieter for the early matches, which kind of showed you they weren't that interested in some of them than they were for the last bit. So I don't even think you can make kind of that comparison, but I feel like it's just a case of just, did it hurt all our enjoyment? And I think the answer is, I'm guessing, going to be yes. And I think if we're reviewing this and we're giving our honest takes on the show, I think we've got to be honest about it. And like, even me, I'm a seasoned stay up later, was struggling like during like Toni Storm Mercedes, which was fucking fantastic match we're going to get to. And I'm excited to talk, like you said before, JP. I'm so excited to talk about the show because, spoilers, I thought it was fucking great despite itself, because they did test me. And there was those moments like during that match where it did hurt my enjoyment, and it did, we talked about how hyped we were for especially the 4 big matches on this show. Like, I hated that I was like wide awake to fucking see Kip Sabian wandering out there, or to see, actually, let's use Sammy Guevara wandering out there on the pre-show, and then again later on in the night, and I was fucking shattered. It's like having to fight with myself to pay attention to this thing I was desperate to see and desperate to watch live. Like, I just don't think you can talk about it without like being honest. Like, and if there are people out there who's enjoying it, this doesn't affect, great, because I've been there. There's been shows where I think I've been the defender and gone, the length didn't necessarily bother me this time. This is like the longest, I think, American pay-per-view in history, I think is the quote. Yep. I think that's the case. Passes WrestleMania 35. I think it has to be part of the conversation if we're going to talk, what we thought of the show. And yeah, it was a gigantic negative. Let's get it out the way, JP.
Oh my God. How often do I stay up for an AEW show? I can't. I've got very young kids, so that is just effectively ruled out. So when you see a show that's starting at 6 p.m. UK time, normally you would think this is fucking tremendous. We're going to be done and dusted hopefully by about midnight, and that's even with the excesses of it. This, too much. And I don't understand. I don't understand any other entertainment medium where, all right, let's even say football. Love football all the time. I don't watch a game of football and go afterwards, and another, come on. Bring it on, another 90 minutes. Yeah, a third one. It's insane. It wouldn't work because you need time to kind of digest this stuff. And the point to me is, and I'll bring this up again later on as well, is when they were showing, when it was the Bucks versus Swerve and Ospreay, and I turned to Joe and went, two fucking hours. And he's like, yeah, 2 fucking hours we voted for this. 2 hours, which on a WWE pay-per-view, that'd be the main event. 30 minutes. We haven't even touched any of that stuff yet.
Which is its own problem too. It is. Like, it's not, I don't defend those either. I do say they need more matches. But it's one of them, isn't it? It doesn't have to be either extreme, Like, because the case the Americans will make, Gareth, is like, and they pay more money than we do for pay-per-view. Although it did fucking kill me to put my hand in my pocket and pay that £15 on Saturday night. That's when I knew you hadn't made it back for the show, mate. I couldn't steal it on your Triller login. But it was a big show. I was excited. I wanted to watch it properly. So, that's a lot of money to me out here. That's a week's worth of food. But I kind of get the argument of like, you want more for your money type of thing. But like, more doesn't necessarily mean good. More, like JP said, more length doesn't mean good. Like, if every Premier League game wasn't 90 minutes and it was like, 7 hours, it wouldn't make it better. If all your favorite films got an extra hour and a half tagged on the end, it wouldn't be better. If your favorite TV show got an hour added onto it, it wouldn't be better. If Dynamite's been fucking brilliant the last while, that's like my biggest argument. You added 2 hours to Dynamite, would it be better? No, it'd be worse. So like, it's evidently true that there's like a limit in all forms of entertainment for it before it hits, I think, most people's entertainment value in it, and I think wrestling is no different.
And I think that's where then, when the money trade-off thing like becomes sort of slightly irrelevant for me. Like, if I've paid that money and it was a 3-hour show and it was absolute dog shit throughout, then I'd be like, I wouldn't be like, oh, well, at least it was 3 hours kind of thing, not 6 sort of thing. It'd be like, no, it's rubbish. It was rubbish kind of thing. So I've paid that money, but I don't pay that money feeling like, well, it's got to be like, 5 hours long to justify the money. Like, if for me, it's like, if it was 3 hours long and it was amazing, I'd have paid double what I paid the other day, because I could be worth it for the entertainment, side of things. And that's where I'd like that whole money versus length of time trade-off thing. It's not like more wrestling is good or it's free wrestling because it's beyond 3 hours and you'd have paid it. And that's just not a thing. That's just not a fact. Like the way people try and like make that an argument. Like no, it's like I got out of bed on Sunday morning, like laid my money down. Sorry, Benno, I forgot on the Saturday. I said to Matty on the Saturday actually when we were sat in the booze. I said, Benno will be panicking here because I haven't bought it yet. And then forgot to do it by the Sunday. But when I did, hit fucking play, and then I saw 5 hours 59, and like just like audibly went fuck off, kind of thing. Like immediately from the off, kind of thing.
Yeah,
I was just annoyed. I was going into it in a bad mood because I was thinking 6 hours, fuck off, like not what I want. So again, if I'd have been sat up and trying to just endure that through the night as you did there, as good as them last matches were, it would have actively taken away from my enjoyment because I would have been struggling so hard to try and stay awake to watch them.
Yeah.
So then it becomes a battle with yourself as opposed to just enjoying what you watch.
When you're struggling to stay awake during Omega Okada, you've really got to think, okay, there's a problem, and it was at the beginning of the match. Yeah, and trust me, I've got some thoughts about it. But like at the same time, it's like, Jesus, this should not be a situation that's arising. It has an audible impact. That's why things have a certain amount of time to it, because then people can enjoy it. And it's the same. We don't all just go, let's stick on the Brutalist or whatever. Like, let's watch films that are 4 hour long. Let's watch Killers of the Flower Moon. That's the finest Scorsese film. Why? Because it's his longest. No, that's just not how this stuff works.
And that's it. And I don't think anything more needs to be said. I'm sure it'll come up as we go on because it did affect enjoyment at various points. And again, it's not even like, because I think there'll be the Americans out there going, well, it was on in the daytime for us, so that was fine. Maybe, but like Gareth said there, you're watching it the day after. It's still a lot of wrestling to consume before you get there. And like, obviously people will make the argument, well, you don't have to watch it. And I said, well, is that a great argument? Is that like, is that what the company think? Because like I don't feel like that's a great way forward. Surely you want people to watch your most important, biggest matches at the end. I was joking to Hamlet. I said we should do the other way. It should be like Saturday night's main event back in the day, or Superstars or whatever it was, where like Hogan would be on first, and then he'd fuck off home and he'd be back in the hotel. Kenny Omega could have been on Twitch, while fucking Sammy Guevara, whoever's in that seventh death hour at the end. Yeah, it's anything. Is it 8 hours? Is just, or 6 hours if you're just watching the main show, is too long for anything. And I think even if I was wide awake, there's only so much you can necessarily consume. So yeah, I think it's a fair point. I think we've made it fairly.
It was a 2-night WrestleMania in one night, wasn't it? Like that's basically what it was. Like, and it's just like nobody wants that. Nobody.
They were lucky ultimately that they didn't end up in the WrestleMania 35 situation where the main was just like, it's just a fucking endurance test just to get through it and watch it, and everyone's fucked. And everyone's knackers. They've had to sit through a load of shite beforehand. They were lucky to get away with it. And someone brings up a point there in the chat. I did perk up massively for that main event. And I'll tell you what, I needed it because that's a fucking an hour-long cycle home afterwards. So I was like, fucking need this.
I've literally slept for 2 days since, so I do apologise, Gareth, that I did mean to send you the Triller login with the pay-per-view on it. But again, AEW got on me. That's good. We're professionals. They got an extra few pennies out of us, but it's one of those. It has to be said. It has to be. And like I say, it harmed my enjoyment of it live. It meant I rewatched the last 3 matches today, if I'm brutally honest, so that we can talk about it here. Not the worst problem, because I fucking love them, so I can't wait to talk about them. It was an amazing spectacle. It was an amazing event, but yeah, there was that one negative. But like, to get into the show, like I did say to our Discord, I offered, should we start with the main event and work our way through? But yeah, the one that won the vote was to march through. Too many sickos on our Discord, so you can use the show notes. I'll try and put something in that tells you. Basically, JP, do like a wave to the camera, or do some kind of signal when we eventually get to Swerve and Ospreay versus the Young Bucks, because that's really when you started paying attention to this show. Those first 2 hours can probably go. So we'll do our best to march through the undercard as quick as we can to get there. But again, we're about to, as we said, ironically spent 15 minutes moaning about the length, so now we're going to ironically spend an hour each on each match and make ourselves massive hypocrites. But before we do get into very briefly talking about those undercard matches, it's got to be said, like the positive of this entire thing was like, what a spectacle, Yes, they've borrowed the length of the shows from WrestleMania and I guess Wrestle Kingdom's gone by, but like, good lord, I thought this thing looked incredible. We don't have a final ticket number at this point, JP. We pretty much know it's past the 25,000 at this point, unless there's been any late breaking news on that. But it certainly looked every bit close to 30, if not more, with the way they staged it. I thought they staged this absolutely perfectly. It felt like the lessons they learned from the second All In with Wembley, I think they applied them here, and much credit to the AEW production team, because this looked absolutely gigantic and did feel like an absolutely huge show by the time we got to bell time.
Oh my god, the production for this, and what was interesting is that for a large portion of this show, we had like somebody who just watches WWE, only got into it in recent years, one of Joe's mates, and he sat down and was watching it with us. And one of the first things I asked him, I said, "Does this look like a WrestleMania?" And he went, "Yeah." And I just said, "How many people do you reckon are there?" And he went, "Oh, I don't know, about 50,000." And it's like half that. Because it was, I think I did see a number around 25,600 or something along those lines, but could easily be wrong there. 25,671 is the last WrestleTix update for that on there as well. So
what's that
maybe
from?
not much. That was WrestleTix. That was...
No, what date though?
Oh, it just says July 12th on here. And it was that day. So they'd done an extra 1180. You wouldn't have known. And really, what difference does the number make? Because it's all about the spectacle. And they did this perfectly. All those empty seats were all behind a gigantic stage that looked Mania level ready. And because of the nature of baseball stadiums, it's a lot more tiered than what you would see. It's like a lot more like seats on top of one another, like that brilliant Dynamite during WrestleMania week in Boston, I think it was, where they were just sat on top of each other, and it just looked great. Just tremendous, like proper main, like big time wrestling for this. Yeah, I loved this as a setup, and I thought it worked entirely.
Yeah, that's it. Just to triple check, yeah. Nothing new from WrestleTix, because I think that number was from the afternoon of the show.
Yeah.
Last check, they were asking for photos and stuff like that for people to give them. But like JP says, Gareth, the number will be incidental, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it when it comes through. But yeah, I thought this was great. There was some production snafus through the night. I didn't think the mics in general weren't great as far as like the ring announcer and stuff like that goes. And whether it was the crowd weren't great earlier on the show, or they weren't mic'd well, is a conversation we can have, or it's just the nature of stadiums, because we've all been in stadiums where like it sounded louder than it does when it's on the telly. But yeah, maybe some of those negatives aside, overall this was gigantic, and it was fitting of the stage. We've got an All In right finally. It only took 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, that was it. If I was saying that I was like, shouting fuck off at the screen when I was, seeing that 6 hour mark at the start, as soon as I then saw like the setup and just the way it looked and how well it got like the main sort of stage and entranceway out, and just how good the crowd looked, then I was just like big beam and smile on my face immediately, because you wanted it to look good. I had these fears in the back of my head that it might look a bit kind of, sparse in certain areas or things like that. But, I mean, JP's point there that he said about somebody saying, "Oh, it could be 50,000." It could be 50,000 when you were looking at it. It just looked comparable to the majority of WrestleManias that I've ever watched, sort of thing. Which again is that if that's the optics you want, isn't it? Because that's the clips that end up getting shown on your TV. That's the clips that end up getting shared around social media. You couldn't have like anti-AEW people like showing footage of this on social media and like immediately having something easy and obvious to like poke the finger at and try and bring it down in some way, because it looked great. It looked like loads of people were there, and it just generally looked like the optics are so important. In a world where we've talked in recent weeks about the improvement of the TV product and things, anybody sort of watching that who's semi-casual, maybe turn their eyes to the products, will be like, oh, this still is good. This still is important. This isn't there's only 1,000 people in the building. This is a credible company, that plenty of people out there are watching and enjoying. So it's just gives that immediate, positive impact. And that works for them is because they show these footage. They can show this footage to sponsors and TV execs and everything like that. And it just creates that immediate visual of something that, probably looks hotter than it actually is, right? Right now in certain quarters, but still a positive all the same.
Massively. I think it was Robert that said it. Like, it felt like it was Wembley was on loan, or it was like, our thing, all in's ours really, but we've lent it to the just for 1 year. You can have it, and just look after it and respect it and treat it like we all want it to be treated. And I think they did do it from that point of view. So massive thumbs up, and as I'm sure I'll say in conclusion, like the perfect time for it as well. This really did feel like a big, after the great run of Dynamite we've had the last while, this felt like the celebration that we all wanted, and I think for the most part it delivered.
I pray this did good pay-per-view numbers, because if we can get afternoon pay-per-views, then we're fucking cooking with gas. We really are. We could do that as well. And just a really silly thing about I can even remember All in Wembley when they filmed that and they showed some empty seats and stuff like that. I mean, particularly the pre-show. I mean, obviously it was just like always empty. And in some ways they did so much, and that had 72 or 81,000, depending on which person at Brent Council you speak to. And it did such a good job for that. Yeah, incredible.
Definitely. Well, getting to the pre-show itself, I think the whole family's got takes on All In. Any notes on the pre-show quickly? I mean, I was going to say we'll keep it brief. It was 2 hours. There was a lot of video packages. Good sit downs. I enjoyed the Hangman Page sit down with Jeff Jarrett of all people. I actually kind of enjoyed the carpool karaoke with Moxley and Renee. Just nice little bits like that. I'll always prefer stuff using the time for stuff like that than people like Big Show trying to say as little as they can while talking for 15 minutes at a time. It's the absolute worst stage when you're trying to do that like kayfabe sports pundit stuff and just say really generic lines about each match. But yeah, there wasn't much going there, but when it got to the matches, I mean, I'll question why we get to see Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara twice in one night in a little while, but good to see the Von Erichs get a run out. I'll always say I've got a soft spot for him. Good to see Big Boom AJ get a run out. I'll take him over Jelly Roll anytime. I got a big laugh out of probably the best thing that Trent might have ever done is pushing. Wasn't the Rizzler, was it? It was the other one.
Big Justice.
Big Justice pushing.
Whoever that is, he's a bloke.
That was a good laugh. You know my name. You're on TikTok too much, JP. The boy protest too much. That was a lot of fun. And FTR Outrunners was a match. It was no patch on the Collision match, to the point where I probably wouldn't have done it. I think unless you were gonna do that Collision match here or on this pay-per-view and give it the big spotlight that you should give it. I just don't think it really worked as far as like a pre-show goes. But yeah, I know you particularly loved that Collision match, Gareth. But yeah. I would definitely say this wasn't a patch on that, unfortunately. I do question why they didn't put it on the, if they wanted FTR involved so badly in this weekend, but I guess that's an extra match then.
Yeah, I mean, I never got around to watching any of the pre-show, to be honest. Having been out all day Saturday and then spent all day Sunday watching the main the main card, I was like, I probably should see my family at some point, shouldn't I, this Sunday? So it was like that trade-off of like, do I spend 2 hours with the family or do I watch the pre-show? So family won out on that occasion, and doesn't sound like I missed much either. Just
don't think you're a Razor guy, to be honest. They were exposing his gimmick as well, saying he knows when the lights on and when he does his stupid little pose. I did enjoy seeing Braden and Davey get a promo video from Big Boom AJ and meeting all them lot. I'm sure that was Braden's dream come true.
I was more made up for them getting to meet him than anyone else. Like that was it. But for me, I mean, at this point in time, I'd arrived at Joe's, having cycled through a fucking heat wave, which I wouldn't advise any sane, sensible person to do. So we were having a barbecue. So it was like, it was on my phone. I was kind of checking bits of it, but I went, I really don't need to see like kind of any of this stuff.
I've seen photos of this barbecue. Joe's particular t-shirt was a big fan of.
Oh yeah! Oh, that Ian Beale t-shirt, absolutely cracking t-shirt he had on there. So, and Cooper was there as well, as you know, you would have remember him from when we would go to all these shows and go to Progress. So, we decided we were going to eat rather than that, and I pretty much
good time.
The Big Boom AJ, so I can't be offended by it because it's on the pre-show, and he's fucking better than Danhausen. I will take that quite happily to my grave. And they do a job, and they seem like they're well up.
Most wrestlers, to be honest.
Yeah.
As far as like selling you on the show and where it is and when it is, old school as anything.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, fair play to him for that stuff. And yeah, I mean, usual, let's get the Von Erichs on there. Fine, whatever. The only stuff I did see was the second half of the Outrunners FTR match, which I didn't, was nowhere near as good as that Collision match.
Nowhere near.
I thought, nah.
Oh, there you go. But that's
I
appreciated.
don't smoke Newport cigarettes either, so their tight thing was completely lost on me.
fills its spot, fills its time, gives you time to get the stacks in. It's that point. It's that point at which I did get my 2 pizzas in that I have for the night. That might be the other reason I didn't sleep. Probably just the pure indigestion from Vietnamese jalapenos. But it serves its purpose. Does the pre-show? But yeah, we went straight from there into the main show, and felt like the show. I'm not sure about this as a choice to take things off. To borrow from like the length of the show conversation. I don't think as we go through the show, it's not necessarily just the length of the show. I think it's where they place things as well, where AEW sometimes come unstuck. It's very much an old problem, I think, that was coming to light here. But yeah, Opps versus Deathriders and Gabe Kidd was the choice for the big opener here. Felt like it was here more than anything. And there was a couple of matches like this on the show to get the lads a run out and really to do the big angle at the end, as they very much wanted to get over the fact that Samoa Joe was out of the building with him being stretchered out. Presumably, his best mates, Powerhouse Hobbs and Shibata, just sat by his bedside for the 7 hours it was between this match and the end of the show to explain why they couldn't possibly run it on the main event. But yeah, for me, Gareth, this was more angle and match, but fun to see the lads get a run out, and always fun to see Joe over and in his element in a big stadium.
Yeah, I mean, it was there, wasn't it? Basically, to serve the purpose, like you say, of just getting them out of the building to sort of like feed into that storyline, wasn't it? Where obviously the Opps have been, the people running interference, haven't they? Been the protectors kind of for people up against the Deathriders there. So yeah, I mean, it served that purpose there. I mean, as a match, I mean, me, the notes guy, I've got like 3 bullets on this match there. So I think it tells you how much there is worth this match from a substance point of view. There wasn't, it
could have been on the pre-show, and then it would have made a bit more sense by the hospital so long,
Yeah.
It was a match that there's no need to have that FTR match that you're talking about there on the pre-show. This could have been on the pre-show.
Easy.
You could have rerun this angle there as an alternative for that. But I think the main thing that just jumped out to me was like, I just really didn't enjoy Gabe Kidd in this match. It felt like camp show stuff. It felt like All Stars. It was so over the top. I don't know if it was because it was like the big show or something like that he felt like he was having to try and like put this like extra effort in, but it just came across like I was watching an All-Star show of watching like some comedic baddie, the way he was overperforming there for me. So that was one who, given that he's someone who I've kind of like enjoyed a bit more of late, I thought he really he didn't come across. It came across not great for me in this, and just stuff he did just sort of felt a bit off. So that was kind of the disappointment in that one for me. But as a whole, it was a fun enough match to open a show with. I would say that did it need to be there? Probably not. But it served a purpose for what they wanted it to serve.
Yeah, this was lucky enough, I think, to open. If this had been on third, we'd probably be talking about this in very different terms. I thought it was fun enough for what it was, like enjoyable, and the crowd were able to be into it, but that's because it opened up the main show, and that's the reason why. If it had been third on there, and that's one of my bugbears is, obviously the structure of this show and how things were laid out, that was something that wasn't spot on. So they kind of got away with it, and really was there as a kind of it had that link to the ending, because the idea being, obviously, like you said before, that it would mean they ruled the Opps out because Joe had to go to hospital, and then the other 2 lads had to take him, obviously, rather than wait around backstage watching the tellies like they should have been doing if they were big good workers.
Matty will be watching the telly. I'm sure he'll be cheering for his favorite wrestler, former AEW World Champion Samoa Joe, getting on the stadium show. But I think that was the other part of why it was there. But yeah, that was that. It was there to serve a story purpose. But yeah, that takes us into the second match of the main card, which was the men's casino gauntlet. Which, to be fair, I think we've been quite positive in the build too. I think it was refreshing that they'd spent a bit of time in as far as setting up the MJF feuds with Mystico and setting up obviously the MJF feud with Mark Briscoe as well, which kicked this thing off. And I think that was good and it was smart, and they were obviously featured all over the graphics because that was the big selling point of this match. But I don't know if they necessarily thought about the rest of the match and the other 30 odd minutes of this thing that got sent out, which was a problem. Because really, I think if you're going to do one of these matches, and it wasn't one of these matches, it was two of these matches on this show, I think you need to have ideas. I think you need to have surprises up your sleeve, and all credit to that weird looking Juice Robinson without his beard. They didn't have that, did they? And it really felt like a match devoid of ideas for me. This one, JP.
Oh God, yeah. I didn't like this, and I was really because like you, we've said
I was ready to like it, to be honest, but yeah, I think I agree.
We've enjoyed it, but we also said why are they doing two on the one night? Because in some ways, you've mentioned about the creativity. It makes you think if they're trying to book two of these together rather than focusing on one of these and just thinking we're just going to nail this, then that would have been a bit easier for them to do. But instead, for this one, it just felt like you say, it was very much the MJF Mark Briscoe show, which I would be fine with if we didn't have to spend 35 minutes to get to it. But just, I thought the layout, I thought that most of the entrants were, I'd say, uninspiring, but there wasn't any big shocks and surprises unless you count Juice Robinson and then the Gun Club coming out.
Yeah.
But even
we weren't even in the match like that. They were the second best surprise, and it was just to do the angle.
And I don't know, I'm told that was Juice Robinson. It didn't fucking look like him. It was just this bloke, with long hair. And so it's why he's got rid of that, because one of the selling points he had when he was in the Gun Club and doing well for the first time in years was he just had this wacky anarchic look to him. And I didn't bother with it.
You know what he looked like? He looked like, and this is a very specific reference, but he looked like, when you like in WCW when there'd be a random cruiserweight from the mid-90s who just turn up in the dying days at WCW, like the Maestro or somebody, and they just have a completely new look and a completely new body and a completely new outfit. That's what it felt like. It was just remember him? He looks fucking weird now, doesn't he? And we did that a few times near the end. Prince Ike was another one.
Really fucking odd. And for me, this was there was some stuff structurally I didn't like with it. I mean, I laughed at the Sin Cara a bit because he sprinted down to the ring for his song, so it was like he was in there and they were just having to fuck around for a minute and a half while what sounded like not that many people in the audience knew what the lyrics of the song were. So it was like
that was a letdown. That happened on Collision too. On Collision, the same thing happened, and it was just awkward. I'm kind of coming out pretending like they were singing. It was like a SmackDown versus Raw. You know what I mean? Where he's doing all the motions, but the crowd aren't kind of going along with it. It was, we maybe should have got a note from that from Collision, but that was sad.
My biggest bugbear for this is it was just this idea that two of them would go in, they'd do their spots, and then they just sit on the fucking outside for ages, and they do these wide shots while two people are wrestling, just 8 lads sat in their ass watching, and you're just thinking, okay, this doesn't look particularly inspiring, even if you can try and put some logic into it as to, well, they're taking a rest and I'm sure they'll break up a pin if it's going to happen. That doesn't make it a fun viewing experience there as well. And I did think on the Mystico note, when he slipped off the ropes, I went, Jesus, you've seen a stadium and you've just embraced your inner Sin Cara here, haven't you, mate? You decided to go the whole fucking hog for this as well. And then the ad hoc entrances. There were times it felt like there was 5 minutes and then someone else would come in, and other times it was 60 seconds. And it's come on. Just try and give this some more structure and some more thought to it. And we'll talk about a better one later on, but didn't enjoy this at all.
I think it was a victim of lack of ideas, lack of surprises, and just probably the fact we've had too many of these, including an extra one on this night. Because for me, Gareth, even the ideas they did have, like I say, structuring it around MJF, I laughed at, the Hurt Syndicate entrance. I'm sure you knew every word to that song because MVP definitely didn't, but they did their best. that was one of their ideas. Doing, something with, obviously Bowens and Caster was another one of the big ideas they seemingly had, but that wasn't necessarily executed very well. That was all of a bit of a big nothing that didn't come to anything. I don't know. Just felt a bit undercooked for me, Gareth.
Yeah, I think that's it for the main thing. I think we've been positive in the past, haven't we, about this match and about its kind of like place as a key thing that the AEW's got up their sleeve that's like a unique match for their own purposes, and a big part of that has been either the stories that they've weaved through it or the surprises that they've brought out there. And I don't think we benefited from either of that. Like, it was so focused on like Briscoe and MJF, which has its positives and negatives, that, but when there's all them other lads in the match, you kind of want a little bit more, don't you? And I was sort of like left sort of looking at it feeling like who came out of this then sort of feeling a bit of sort of hope. I thought like Ricochet had a decent match. I thought Bandido came across looking pretty strong in it from that point of view. Like, even people like Brody King, who they're normally positioned a bit stronger. Like, I don't know if he got too much from it. There was a lot of people there was almost like neglected the level of spots that they got like throughout the match to do something there, really. So it was one of them where I sort of felt like the majority of people didn't come out of this feeling like they'd had their moment to shine. They'd had their like specific thing that was actually good. It was probably sort of like diluted to maybe like 4 people, which when there's 14 people in the match, it's a big load of nothing, really, isn't it? Going in there around the fringes, really. So yeah, I mean, they got to where they want to get to with it, with with the finish, and with obviously like Market and the J Driller, and then MJF stealing one out of nowhere to get the 1, 2, 3, which fits in nicely there. That kind of Mark had the win essentially, and it's old MJF. Typical MJF tactics there, sort of getting the win in the end. But definitely there could have been more from it, especially with the amount of time that was allocated to it and the level of people that were in the match.
How would you guys have felt if we hadn't had this match here, and instead we had MJF versus Mark Briscoe or MJF versus Mystico?
Or him even doing double duty. It's the type of thing he'd pitch, innit? Then again, that's another match. Let's not do that. I'm sure it was.
Just the women's casino gauntlet.
You see, I like this match, and I like the idea of it being on the show. I loved it. With getting the pops kind of thing as the people come out and things like that when we were live there last year and things. I think as a thing, it works as a format to be on a big show, and it breaks it up from singles matches and tag matches and things like that to have something a bit different. But if you're going to have it there, you've got to fucking book it with a bit more, focus and attention to detail, really. And they'd clearly just thought far too much about the thing that we all knew leading up to it was the numbers 1 and 2, and that's where it failed. It needed more.
And the other problem for me was that it did feel like a lot of these matches in the undercard, like somebody said, until we get to the last 3 matches, you're right, Gareth, this could be something different on a card, but it wasn't different on this card because we didn't get a singles match until the last 3 matches, because I think there's just part of Tony Khan where it's like, let's just get everybody in the card, let's get them in places, and then the issue with that is when you have a match like this next match and you need replacements, well, they're already busy. You can't pull a Ricochet, who I agree was probably like the backbone of this match, and put him in there, or grab a Brody and put him in there. Like, they giving everybody a job means you've got nobody on the bench, and that was not shown any more so than this next match that we do need to get into. And then we're on to the good stuff. We're going to be really positive, folks, when we get there. I'm pretty certain I think at least one of us will love every match after this point. But the last of the doldrums of this undercard for me, or the most obvious one, is Daniel Garcia, Sammy Guevara, Dustin Rhodes, and Kyle Fletcher in a 4-way match for the TNT title. And if you've just woken up from a coma and wondering what the fuck is this doing on the show, I mean, I don't want to be unsympathetic to the real circumstances because, Adam Cole, it did. I mean, there was a part of it that was kind of like, I mean, we're almost at 2 hours here and Adam Cole's coming out to do a speech, but, fair enough. It's a genuinely horrible thing that's happened to, a young man at this point in his career. And there is all that. I ticked all the boxes, Gareth, before I say something mean. But, I still think even in that scenario, I think if you're running this company or you're in creative or whoever's this idea it is, you probably then need to think about, okay, what's the plan B? And this really felt like heart over head. Like there was no brain-based or like logic-based reason that you can give me in kayfabe or out of kayfabe why this four-way match existed on the show and why Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes, the current ROH tag team and trios champions, were the two that you picked in this match. Never mind who you picked to win it at the end. Like, I don't understand this at all. Like, I think even if you're going to do it as well, like, again, why would they be on the pre-show too? Why wouldn't the follow-up conversation be, we're taking them from the pre-show, so, we're going to skip that match on the pre-show and we're going to shuffle things around and put the Opps match on there. Like, that thought doesn't happen because that would then mean two other people don't get on the show. And it is about participation medals, it feels a little bit at times, AEW on these big shows. It's probably why Tony Khan's a great boss if you work for him, but sometimes from the outside, we do question some of these things because somebody pulled it on the Discord. Sammy Guevara, I believe it is correct, hasn't been on Dynamite since last October. He hasn't won a match on Dynamite since last January. What's he doing in this match? It's not even like there was any kind of, dissension between him and Dustin that would tell you a story on this. Like, for me, the obvious solution to this problem was to do a straight-up singles match with Kyle and Daniel Garcia, or just don't have the match on the show and get the time that you've been given back, put it in your back pocket, and use it for the rest of the show. Because the other problem with it was following Adam Cole's promo, like, there's no way this crowd were going to get into it, and it was just, it was depressing kind of watching this go through and watching them have to go through the motions in a match that nobody wanted to see. And a result for me, I'd say, Gareth, that I get like the hand on heart reason. I get why the bleeding heart reason why Tony Khan might do this, but it didn't really seem like Texas cared that much, and it really, to me, wasn't even that big a moment. It felt like Dustin was surprised by it, but like, mate, you've already got 2 belts. Like, it's not even. Is it really that big a deal? You've got a third one. Like, I don't understand it from any point of view.
I'll stick up for the finish. I don't understand why the match was what it was, like the 4-way. Like, I'm just immediately just sat there just thinking like why? Where's this come from? Like, obviously watching every episode of Dynamite, every collision, you're thinking you could have took somebody out of that.
You thinking who's Sammy Guevara?
And somebody could have gone out of that Gauntlet match and into this match if they wanted to make it like a 3-way or something like that. There was other solutions there that they clearly could have done. Why did you need Sammy Guevara? Like, it could have just been Dustin Rhodes then. If that's the decision you come to, is that we're going to put Dustin Rhodes over, make it a 3-way. Yeah. It makes it look less of a hard sell kind of thing to have both lads like going into the match there. I'm sure there's some logic around Dustin Rhodes that you could have thrown into the mix or something, with him being multiple belt holder or something. You could have done some kind of backdoor loophole into the...
He goes into Tony Khan's office and he says, give me my one chance, it's Texas, something like that.
Something like that. You can make it work. It's just when you're looking at Guevara's there as well, and then you see Guevara come out and the crowd could give less of a shit about Sammy Guevara if they tried. Like, honestly, like, the lack of pop for him was unreal, and you're not blaming that on stadium acoustics or anything like that. There's a roof on the fucking building for a start, and we heard how loud it got at different points over the course of it. But what I would defend is, I defend probably that if that's the route they've gone down, putting it on Dustin Rhodes, and I know it wasn't maybe necessarily the moment they thought it was. I still think it was a moment enough that if you can take those clips of Dustin Rhodes crying, holding the belt and things like that, I think it's good sort of like footage they've got. I can see why they didn't do a straight one-on-one when Fletcher's beat Garcia last time, is that if the route you want to get is to get the belt onto Kyle Fletcher, you don't want Garcia losing again, so you don't want him losing on Dynamite and then losing on the pay-per-view as well. I think from a story point of view, it just gives them an opportunity on TV for Kyle Fletcher to just brutally beat the fuck out of Dustin Rhodes kind of thing, which I think is a good way of Kyle Fletcher getting the belt on him, as opposed to it just being like oh, he pinned someone in he pinned Sammy Guevara in a 4-way to become the champ. Who cares, kind of thing. But if he fucking destroys Dustin Rhodes on telly, again, it's just, Dustin Rhodes is going to bleed, isn't he? Obviously, in that match, he's going to fucking gush all over the place. Just as a visual, Kyle Fletcher winning that title for the first time, I think they can then make it mean more of that belt going on to Fletcher than if he'd have just won it in this match. So that's where I can see kind of the logic. I think Dustin Rhodes plays a short-term handover cog in the wheel of putting Kyle Fletcher over stronger further down the line. So that's where I'll give him a pass on this, but I ain't giving them a pass for fucking Shoehorn and Sammy Guevara in the match. Because literally, why? What? Literally, I can't understand like what the thinking was that was an
Tony Khan went to his
addition
wedding.
that we needed. Like, unreal.
That's it. There's no other reason.
Some fucking wedding. Jesus Christ. I'm probably leaning. I mean, to have him on there, there's a couple of things. It's a bit weird for me. That crowd only reacted. I mean, my initial reaction was there a fuck up that went on? Was there like a late ref count pin or something? Like there wasn't a kick out that was meant to be there? I know it's because I just didn't see this coming at all. The only way really beyond this is Fletcher fucking destroys him, which weirdly ties into what we said the booking of this match should have been anyway, which was when we were talking about the weekend show. He goes out and he Fletcher effectively destroys Adam Cole and he wins it. And this is your new young star who's got a title and he's a killer. You get a chance to do that, but in some ways it adds that bit, that probably would have been more emotion if Adam Cole had been in the match and was able to wrestle it for that to happen. It's like a combination of like kind of unholy factors. You've got the pre-match speech from Adam Cole, which I think people just found genuinely shocking and upsetting, and it was a downer because it was just like, oh my god, he's retired. He can't say he's going to retire, but he's going to be away a long time, and it hadn't felt right since he'd come back from injury. Frankly, it was like there's something it's not clicking here. He doesn't look like he's particularly healthy, and we'd said things like that, and that wasn't related to what had happened. It was apparently an injury that had happened on the Thursday. Is that right? That was the thing that kind of that was the thing that kind of brought this situation to a head. But like again, you had in the entrances 20 minutes on this, and it just should have been pulled from the card. That was really the thing. It just shouldn't have been on the card there at all. I completely agree. There's no reason for Sammy Guevara to be there. I can get reasons for putting Garcia into the match. That kind of makes a bit more sense for me. But even then, I think it was only when there was the tears and he was holding the belt, which would have worked probably a bit better if he didn't have two other belts with him at the time.
That's the other thing.
Like, this is the thing that matters. Fuck these two off. Which I'm like, yeah, actually you could do. I'm not going to be missing them, but still.
But it's, you make good points, Gareth, that like, I guess that makes logical sense. It's just, if you're going to do that and you're going to tell a story with Dustin, like, seed that, tell that story before now. It was so out of nowhere, and it was so, like I say, it comes in a company where he does, like, have all the belts there as well. That's the bigger issue for me, and it is, I think, personally, either just gone with, Kyle either wiping through Daniel Garcia or doing something where it's like, they're going to go out there and they're going to go kill it, maybe not a tribute to Adam Cole, but in like a sign of the times to come. But I'm willing to see it play out, and if that could deliver with a Dustin selling for Kyle Fletcher, maybe I'll turn around. But yeah, looking at the chat, like I agree with Platt saying there, and a couple of other people saying there in the chat as well. Ewan saying, it could have, you could have put Roddy or Kyle O'Reilly in there. You say to the Adam Cole point, JP, like watching Collision this week, he didn't look right. And to be honest, on one of the notes I had from Collision was that Kyle O'Reilly looked twice the wrestler Adam Cole looked in that 6-man, and I was kind of like, maybe Adam Cole should be in this spot. So again, you could have done that. You could have, if you wanted to give Sammy something else to do, you could have put him in the Gauntlet and moved a Ricochet over to this. The people weren't advertised for the Gauntlet, were they? So maybe that excuse actually doesn't hold water the more you think about it. But yeah, I guess this is the idea, and we'll see where it lands. But yeah, the wrestlers themselves didn't have much of a chance really with this thing, with the bad news in the air. And I guess we'll see what happens with Adam Cole and the concussions, and whether it really is a retirement going forward.
Yeah, we will do, but I mean, it was at the end of this match that it was the 2 fucking hours comment at this stage. We had taken in first 3 matches, none of which big matches at all. The
No.
Casino Gauntlet are let down 2 fucking hours in. Jesus.
Yeah. And fair play to us, we've got through that in less than half an hour, so I'll take that as a win. Whoever's watching the timestamps here, but that does take us into where it felt like the pay-per-view did start. But I think the reason it was 2 hours as well, JP, it was like it actually almost worked out kind of perfectly. It was the entrances, wasn't it, to like this next one, where it felt like Ospreay got like his his big entrance with the Assassin's Creed stuff. I'm not sure the guys doing the Assassin's Creed stuff were quite up to the standard of some of the previous ones. There were a couple of ropey forward rolls there, weren't there? Like,
the sword fighting,
like that scene in The Office, watching them do karate. Like, it wasn't great.
Yeah. It was watching them do the sword fight bit, and they did it as slowly. I thought I could fucking do a better job than that, just waving it around the face. Come on. I'm meant to be fucking trained. Christ.
But it still felt big time, though. Ospreay got his big entry. Yeah. If anything, to be honest, with like, again, the lack of energy in the show at this point, like, it felt like a jolt when Ospreay came out, to the point where it felt like they did things in reverse. They should have had the Bucks come out while things were already dead, because when they came out, like, Ospreay and Swerve, like, tapping the watches, felt like a bit of a shoot. It was like, oh, the energy was up. Oh, now it's gone again once the Bucks came out there. As funny as it was, them coming out with the pirate ship and that. But we've got to mention Swerve's entrance too here as well. Again, this is the pretty much the thing that took us up to the 2 hours, which again felt like a really good idea, and again, what a nice thing getting JoJo out there and letting her sing the song with the fireflies in the background and all that stuff. The problem was they did it in front of a stadium full of Yanks. Can you imagine how over, and I love America, but like, can you imagine how over this would have been in the UK if Swerve came out saying nobody? Even this shit version, even where, unfortunately, I'm sure she was nervous. JoJo kind of fucked up and got to the chorus at the wrong point in it as well. But that felt like a tribute to Brit Rez. We probably would have, endorsed that and supported it. Like, I can just picture it. Like, I can see the idea. I can see being Swerve and thinking, oh, this is a nod to my old entrance theme. Everyone's going to know it. It's a stadium full of hardcore AEW fans, and it turns out they're not that hardcore, because it felt like nobody then knew why JoJo was singing this song. Nobody sung along, and yeah, it was kind of a sad sight in the end. Where it's like, yeah, if it was at Wembley, it would have been fucking party time, wouldn't it? You could imagine it going off in the stands.
God, yeah. God, sorry, go on, Gareth.
Yeah, I was just going to say it was weird because of how flat it came across, like in the building, especially you'd had Ospreay's entrance up here, and like I was just like. It's like, fuck me. I was like, how much of a big star does Will Ospreay look like? Just the stadium reaction, like when he's coming out, the level of fucking fireworks and everything like that they had for him. I was just like, he looks like the biggest star in the world kind of thing coming out there. And then the sort of just brought it down a notch there with the Swerve thing not getting over, and then brought it down again kind of with the Young Bucks, like young Bucks to that point of view. If anything, it just made Ospreay stand out even more, I thought, because you still had that like fresh in your memory. But yeah, it was one of those with the Shaka Khan song, like just a good idea, but like in execution just didn't kind of deliver for the moment, really, did it?
It's just fair pipes on it, though. Mm-hmm. Just not there. It's like an intimate kind of venue for it. But you mentioned the pyro. Just a shout out. Fuck me, the pyro was on point. I thought the pyro was absolutely on point all night. And this was like the first time that we got pyro, didn't we, for any of the entrances. Jesus,
true. Told you. Awesome. Again, that made another reason why I felt like the show was starting here, because, like, to get into the match itself, Gareth, and this is where we can spend a bit more time on the matches. Like, I think it took them a little while to get there. It was an interesting match structure for me. I'll be interested in your thoughts on that, Gareth. It felt like very much like a standard tag match early on, when it kind of felt like this crowd needed waking up, and it took them a while to get to the point of waking them up. But maybe that was by design, because maybe the slow start fed into what kind of came, because like from the big quadruple down that they did in the middle of the match, it's been gift to it to no end, and I'm not sure it's going to be to your taste or not, Gareth. Like, the crowd were with it then, and you got great drama with obviously Swerve and Ospreay, and the miscommunication, making us all believe that they were going to be telling the story of it was Ospreay's boneheaded decision that stopped the two of them going for the world title for a year. Like, they made you believe in that. They had some gigantic near falls down the stretch of this once the crowd were really with it. Matt Jackson hit like an Oscar, sorry, not an Oscar, a hidden blade that's almost as good as Ospreay hits himself. And yeah, the finish to this I thought was a fantastic conclusion for it. So like, once it got going, full marks. But yeah, an interesting way they put this together. But it very much felt like the real start of the show, this one for me, Gareth.
Yeah, like 100%. You know, it was almost like that. Say that Ospreay entrance. That was like right, like press play from here kind of thing. They should have a big marker on Triller or something like that. That they've got like a big
Pre-show
line
over.
through that 6 hours kind of thing of like pre-show show kind of thing or something like that. I need to like relabel for it for anyone going back. But I did like the match structure. I did like the fact that it started in like such a traditional tag way. Like what I did like is them building in that logic, especially with the given that the Bucks are going to lose, is building in that logic of when it's like the tag team specialists, the tag team expertise, tag team synergy, the Bucks have got the advantage when in reality Ospreay and Swerve are two top level main event guys. They should be beating the Bucks on an individual basis, kind of thing, if you think about it from that point of view. But then they work that into the match with the double teaming early on so well, and like I love that bit on the outside, it was almost like the antithesis of the talking to your hands style stuff, but where Ospreay and Swerve had the better of them and they were on the outside, and Ospreay said to Swerve, frustrated audibly on the outside of the ring, we've got to split them up kind of thing, and it was like, oh, this is like real sports kind of thing they're thinking about, they're getting the better of us here. What do we do? How do we adjust our strategy sort of thing to go out there and get the upper hand? And I was like, yeah, that's it. If you're going to have somebody audibly say something, make it work into the match, not like not like campy overacting about those type of things. I just really enjoyed that as just a small kind of detail of making it feel like real sports in a way that they did that. But that obviously from that early setup was something that worked well. But as you say, then it was almost like when they got into that sort of four-way spot, the four-way sort of section of the match where suddenly it was like somebody had gone, right, go kind of thing, and then it was like bang, 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 again. It was like how could you not fail to kind of enjoy that, because you immediately saw how the crowd just went fucking right up for it sort of thing. It was just suddenly that step change just made it feel
somebody hit the PWG button
massively massively engaging. And so it had had its structural logic to build up to it at that point. And I think it was the point where just before they went into that 500-mile-an-hour exchange where they were fucking hitting super kicks and destroyers and hitting blades and all that, was where there was a striking exchange between Ospreay and Matt, and then Ospreay fired up, and the crowd couldn't have been more behind him if they'd have tried at the point when Ospreay fired up, in the middle of that striking exchange. So it was I almost felt like they'd teased them into it a little bit there, because the crowd got fucking right behind Ospreay in that moment. Again, just ticking another Starbucks kind of thing for me was how over he was getting reactions and things like that with the crowd. But then for it to then accelerate the way that it did, even that kind of felt like it made sense because of the little sort of short setup into that point. But yeah, God, this delivered. And I tell you what, when you're 2 hours into a show and you've been watching essentially 3-star stuff up to this point, 2.5 to 3-star stuff, suddenly just made this again. Talk about the step change within the match, the step change within the card kind of thing. It was here we go, we're all business now at this point, and just cracking stuff as you'd expect from these four.
Yeah, this was I thought this was fucking tremendous. I mean, and that initial bit would have worked better if the crowd hadn't sit through 2 hours of pretty average stuff.
Yeah.
That's the problem. But it was when they did that 4-way sequence with the super kicks and the Canadian destroyers and then the hidden blade and the swerve stomp, and it was just that was it. It was just say the PWG button had been pressed and it was very much switched on. It was one of the few things I was able to go back and rewatch, and I loved this match even more second time round. I just thought this was that. From that point onwards, it felt like it was a fair comparison piece to the Kenny and Hangman versus the Bucks match. Not as good, but it was at that kind of level. And there were points I bit on the near falls near the end, and that was because of the stip. And obviously, I had money on the Bucks to win. which didn't pay out, but that's just the story of my betting life. But I was fine with it. Like, even though I go, well, was that what I predicted or what I would have gone with? No. Am I fine with it? Yeah. I would trust them to have a plan for it. It puts the Bucks firmly back in the kind of tag division. I would love to see Swerve and Ospreay go for the belts. Just go, do you know what? We teamed up and we beat the Bucks. We were really fucking good. You need to get revenge on Lashley. Come on, let's take down the Hurt Syndicate. And then that's an acceptable way to kind of have them doing other stuff for a couple of months until they start thinking, well, actually, we do want to get the world title, and then you can maybe tease dissension in the ranks and stuff like that. But I thought this was thoroughly excellent. I mean, we've not done any star ratings so far, but for this one,
give everyone else 3. That'll do.
Yeah, I'd go 2.5 on the Casino Gauntlet, but for this one, I'd be saying 4.5. I think this is like excellent tag match with just, that the final that finisher as well that they hit, the hidden blade, the swerve kick thing. I don't know what he calls it. I can't remember off the top of my head. Just like tremendous.
There's a couple of great spots like that in there, like the one where like Swerve did it, even like it was like so casual that it didn't get the attention it deserved. But when he did the Swerve stomp, so I think it was Nick on the outside, like as like a springboard kind of thing. It was so beautiful and so perfect. Like the execution, like on some of the stuff, was incredible. And like that's the thing, I can understand why, like, again, like you said, JP, I think I'm maybe more in that camp, that like they came up with this structure before knowing, what was going to come before. And I wonder if maybe an audible could have been called to get to not to get rid of the story entirely, but maybe get to the high spot stuff a bit sooner. But once they did hit it, like it was at a level that you can only really get out of these guys. And it was the Bucks having another, fantastic match. Like I don't even know if I'd go that high. I think it was actually it was great, but on the lower end of great for me. I think maybe my expectations were like, I was expecting a 5 or something like that. I'd maybe go 4.25. Maybe you could push me to 4.5. A fucking great time. Don't get me wrong. And great execution of an idea once they got to that second half. But that just tells you, the level of these guys in there, and the given that it is that the Bucks are still, despite what we think about their characters and stuff. And let's hope going forward, this has gotten like a bit of a MacGuffin out of it, AEW, and it seems like it's reflected in their reality now. And we can leave the daft EVP stuff behind, and we don't need to use that on TV. Let's hope, we get some kind of like positive for the Bucks as characters on TV, because that's always been the missing piece for me in AEW, because you can't doubt them when it comes to these big matches, because they always turn it on, and they look great as well. I don't know if I just hadn't noticed it, but like I think this might have been the first match they actually popped the tops off. It's like I love that about them. They've been waiting. They were like, let everyone think we're fat fuckers until it comes to the big show, then we'll show off that we've been in the gym. They look great, and they look motivated, and they looked well up for it as well. So all worth it in the end. Would you chuck a star rating out of Gareth?
Yeah, I've written 4.25 down. Like thoroughly enjoyed it. Like crack a match from that point of view, and I just think it just moves the Bucks on to just do something more interesting as well. Like you say, I think we talked about this last time. They do look motivated again. It looks like they've got a bit of something between the teeth here. There's a clear different direction for them to go, like storyline wise. They now haven't got that crutch of the EVP status and power to build on. They're going to have to do things off their own back again and things like that, feeding into storylines. So, I think that's a win, because, I'll always say it, like, no matter how AEW evolves in different ways, I think they always need a strong Buck. They always need a strong Omega, from the sort of like founding sort of basis of the company. I think so many fans are bought into them for that reason, so they need to be featured, they need to be doing good stuff, and again, it gives them the avenue to do that. But again, being able to do it in a match like this where they then lose, and like Ospreay couldn't have looked like a bigger star, like I say, but on the entrance alone, but like the amount of 2.99s he kicked out on here, like, fucking EVP trigger, out, more bang for your buck, kicking out a 2.99, like it was like, despite Swerve being the one to get the pin, like they kept Ospreay like feeling like right up there, sort of tippy top as well. Obviously Swerve, like at the end, he looked great as well, and just great seeing just the two. It was like the AEW mega powers there in the ring, shaking hands at the end, kind of thing. And you were just like, look at these two stars who've been built over the last 12 months or 18 months who were proper feel like tippy top guys here now at this point. What a great success story that's been.
And not to jump ahead either as well, but it felt a bit like this was the night to solidify that like Swerve as like an uber babyface, which does also though make me think, okay, so when are these mega powers exploding and what's the story we're telling next with it? But you know, enjoy this story while it's happening. It's the feel good story of AEW right now. Like you're right, Gareth. It's these guys rising up and it's these guys being in the right position that they should be. And yeah, it was a celebration if nothing else, and yeah, just a great way to start the proper end of the pay-per-view here. So yeah,
and enjoy that you can have that intrigue about the mega powers exploding kind of thing here as well, because again, that's part of the joy of wrestling, isn't it? Kind of thing is that you can have these things that rather than stuff being thrown together, it feeling like, oh, actually, no, there is a longer term route for this. It might not be mapped out yet, but it's something that can mean something, and you can get excited about, and you can speculate about and things like that as well. So that's another win for me.
And there's so many different ways they can get to it. It doesn't have to be your standard. One of them turns on the other one. There's a bit of miscommunication because throwing that in, and it was good that it just got kind of brushed off because then pretty soon Swerve came in and absorbed all the super kick. Well, when they threw the double super kick and then he held the.
And when he stood in front of Ospreay and did like say the very cinema-esque stuff. Yeah, it was perfect, and that's the. The story that they're telling. It's an interesting story, and again, as far as like if you're going to do a near fall like that, if you're going to like tell it believably, well, if the match was going the other way, that's probably what the finish actually would have been. And I love that level of forethought. That's probably what, as we were expecting on the preview show, JP, that they probably knew a lot of people were expecting the way for it to go. But yeah, keeping us on our toes. And as Mikey says here, he says a hot take there. The Bucks, Deathriders, Swerve, Hangman story has been a better long-term story than the Bloodline. He says, sorry, Matty, but that's gospel. We'll get there. We're gonna be a conversation about that, I'm sure, when it comes to the main event. But yeah, take me on the ride. I'm up for it. This was cinema, and I'll take this brand of cinema. Very much hashtag my cinema. But yeah, unless we got more on that, the hits did keep on coming. As I think against maybe my expectations, the women's casino Gauntlet was next, and kind of alluded to with the men's, but I think. The general, consensus is that this was a lot better than the men's, and I imagine we're all going to agree with that. I don't know, like you said, JP, earlier, whether it was the fact that they did give, everybody things to do in here, and it wasn't so much laying around, and it did feel a bit structured better. It obviously, it actually had a couple of surprises in there again, not major surprise, but Alex Windsor making a debut, Shuri after obviously the tease on the ROH pay-per-view as well, and it had the feel-good ending as well. I guess that always helps too, with the baddie win in the men's one. It was very much the goodie win in this one, which again I think we both went for it, Athena, on the preview, JP, and that was more of a Hail Mary and just a hope, wasn't it, more than anything. Again, it's Texas and she deserves it. But yeah, I thought that was great, to slot her in the position I think she belongs in this division, and in general I think the women's division looked a lot stronger than it has in a while. Even like you say, people like Queen Amanita, who's somebody that I'm always raving about. I feel like she got a lot of time to shine in this, more so than her usual push on shows would tell you. And yeah, I think maybe to counter Garrett's point about the men's earlier, which was absolutely right. I think this one actually, you walked out with quite a few winners compared to the men's.
Oh, absolutely. This was so much better. I mean, it helps. It was like 8 minutes shorter than the men's, which, with a comparable amount of people in it as well, which shows you didn't need to go 35 minutes for that. Like you say, the people who came in new, like I thought particularly Alex Windsor. I thought Alex Windsor looked really good. It was just like laying in shit as well. And I was like, this is a really good sign. This is just you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And she made a really good first impression. Shuri feels like a pretty much a layup to be challenging at Forbidden Door. It ties in well with the concept and things like that. But you mentioned Queen Aminata. I think a lot of this match kind of worked, but for regular, we've had lots of these all-star matches where it's been like kind of various like women's tags, and we know we're getting the women's tag belts along the line as well. But Queen Aminata going in there and laying it into Tekla, because they've been having like all of these disputes over the TV, I thought was like just really good, like just that kind of good bit of needle. I thought Tekla looked great when she came in, when she delivered that dive off the top while yelling "fuck you." I thought it was quite funny. But for TV as well. Mina Shirakawa trying to submit Sky Blue, but and even I went, fucking hell, she's tapped here, lads. Have you? And it was like, oh no, she's not in the match, is she? And
yeah, I did like double take as well.
I was like, oh no, have we had a colossal fuck up here and we're just going to cut to no, these people are coming in regardless. But they got away with this stuff and people were involved. And there was just those points when they would all be brawling. Or who was it who did the dive off the top to go into the big crowd of people as well? And Athena got that great pop when she came in. And there's something almost reckless in sort of how she works at times. But I'm kind of fine with it, and it was definitely the right winner for that. Like I felt more for that. Like okay, if you're gonna throw us up to the Texas crowd, Athena for me was a much better one than the Dustin Rhodes one, which is this is how we deal with this situation by giving the belt to this guy, and he's from Texas and he's a veteran. But I thought for this, no one looked particularly bad. Maybe I'm missing bits in it, but. It sort of flew by for me. I really enjoyed this. It's not the greatest match you'll ever see, don't get me wrong, but like as it did what the Casino Gauntlet should be.
Yeah, it was a lot better than the men's, and like you say, it had that thought and attention to detail that had gone through it because, JP's just touched on so many of the bits there that I don't need to like repeat there, but even just things like, Willow coming in third when Statlander's been number one kind of thing. Like, again, give them the opportunity to go right at it, and then they just constantly add like little, little bits throughout between those two. So they're just sort of like keeping that element of it, ticking along there. I thought even some of the mirror image stuff that they're doing with Tekla and Julia Hart as well. That was just a little something that they'd thought about, a little nuanced something between two other people there that haven't necessarily interacted previously, but to the same level, but worked into the match. I think Tekla, she's getting the pop she's getting on AEW is mad. Like she's just randomly just so over, like so quickly with people, and like she got one of the biggest.
A win for the people
over.
who said the debut didn't matter. In fairness, it was crap, but it's worked out well.
Oh, like 100%. The crowd, like she's getting reactions, and it feels like there. If say there the crossover with Aminata, but then other elements there. She's someone who they can definitely get like a decent bit of mileage out over the next 12 months. Obviously, Athena coming in at 9, and then Thunder Rosa coming in at 10, where obviously they can then go straight at each other. So structurally, just thinking about the entrance point there, Statlander and Megan Bain have obviously they've had like matches and backs and pairings and backs and forward on TV and things like that, been 1 and 2 and then different together and then against each other's spots throughout this match. Like I just thought it was it was just a bit more enjoyable sort of thing. And then and as well, you sometimes talk about on cards is a bit like, well, follow that kind of thing, and sometimes the women get put in a situation where they've then got to go and follow a big, like, well thought of men's match. But you're coming out of that, while I'm not putting it on the same level as that match that was before it, this could have, if this had shit the bed and has been as bad as the men's one, it could have felt really bad kind of thing, but it didn't. It stood up even to a crowd that had come off a really hot tag match with big stars that had just happened before it as well. So again, that's even more credit to like the workers, but the booking as well overall there. So great stuff here. There's just some, that fucking DVD though that Willow hit on Athena where she landed on the fucking top of the bed on her apron, that looked nasty as fuck. Nearly as nasty as Shuri's music, JP. I was thinking of you when she came down.
Dreadful.
I was thinking Rio might have a challenger here in JP's mind when it comes to theme tunes.
I'll be saying that over the next few weeks. I thought I need to probably hear it at least 3 times before fully confirming how much I hate it. And I tell you what, if there's one thing, if I ever go to Japan, I'm not going to a fucking EDM club. I can tell you that for free, because if that's the kind of shit that passes,
this is only play, I'm told. It's number 1 in the charts. It's like when I went on holiday in the mid-90s and Saturday Night was constantly playing by Woodfield and all the clubs and all the clubs. I was fucking 10 and all the bars, and then it turned out that it was the song of the summer. And it was a big hit over here. It'll be over worldwide soon, JP. It'll be in all the charts.
Oh, God help us if that's the case. It will just add to the sorry state that this world is in at the minute already. If we're getting that kind of scenario there, I feel like I'm going to come out with some deeply offensive comments at some stage where I just start going how I feel when I go on holiday in Europe and I hear local music and go, lads, this is shit. There's no way around this. Like,
it's over here. They fucking love karaoke. People just stand at the end of the street, plug their own karaoke machine in, and just start singing 3 a.m. Just what they do here. It's just a thing.
Shits and giggles. With this match, the other thing I suppose I like about this match is that this is. It felt like a really good indication of what a good job they've done in general with the women that they've brought in. And just how full that side of the roster feels. That I've never been an advocate for adding more belts to it, but the women's tag is the one where I've made the exception because I think there's some interesting stories you can do without it. Like, for example, I'd have Tekla and Queen Aminata team up. Absolutely hate each other, but it's like, fuck it, we've got a chance of winning gold. And then there's a whole story about, are they going to get on in there as well? And you've got so many other natural teams that work together. You could have Willow and Statlander as well at the same time in order to forward that story. Like, it made you have a lot of faith in and around that women's division, and it didn't rely on them bringing in which would have been easy, bring in Nixon Newell, bring in Dakota Kai, bring in Shotzi Blackheart. Shotzi Blackheart was around in that area, and it was like,
bring in Melina, bring in Vicky Guerrero. No, sorry, they were all busy on Sunday. But no, you're right. That was the thing. Like, this match, the men's had more star power, even if it didn't have the surprises, and it wasn't like the surprises here were gigantic stars that all of the AEW audience were always going to know. But like, again, you lay it out well and you book it well and you put the work in that I think they put in with this women's division, and it pays dividends. I think all you want to see now is like that hard work they've been putting in kind of be a little bit more on like a Dynamite, because like it was notable. The build for the men's for this basically took place on Dynamite, and like the end of, I guess it was the go home on Collision, but it kind of felt like nobody's watching now. It's the last 50 minutes. Let's chuck all the women out there to have a brawl. Took place on Collision, so there is still that, I think, unconscious bias in the booking, or conscious bias in the way they book these divisions. But I think this was an advert for why they should continue to invest in it, and why all this new blood that they've got all of a sudden should be taken advantage of, and given just that little bit more of limelight going forward, because they definitely proved it when it came to the match itself. But yeah, unless there's anything more on that, we went from there into, and I guess I was too nice earlier, so I'll be horrible now. The other pre-show match of the night that probably could have been earlier on the card. Maybe that's harsh on the work of the lads in this tag team three-way that we couldn't get our head around, JP, and our assumptions that like FTR were going to get involved, I guess turned out true, but on commentary wasn't the way I was going to thought it might come true. That was kind of weird, but yeah, at least they got involved. But it really just turned out, and all of that was just taking place, including FTR themselves in this, just to continue on the co-plaw. That was the whole point of this one. That's why we wasted another 15-20 minutes of the show with a match that was kind of meaningless in the end, and a poor young Jet Speed team that are kind of meaningless in the end, as good as they looked in their shiny gear. Because all any of us need to be talking about coming out of this one, lads, is the return of the megastar Cope that we got here. I mean, that's a WrestleMania moment if you want one. Like, we've got to start there because it is the major story. Like, what was he fucking doing? Like, the whole, I don't know, I haven't understood this from the start. Like, I think you were the first one to like join the dots for me, JP, and be like, oh, while a lot of us thought Edge and Christy would team up again before we got to this show, and then would we do them with FTR, or we do them with some other heel team? You rightly pointed out, and it came to fruition. They were just going to do the big moment here instead. But like, even then, like, that made sense to me when you laid it out. But even then, when you think about it, have they done the work to lay that out? Like, this whole Christian story with like Nick Wayne and Mother Wayne and stuff, like, they changed quickly, didn't they? Like, they're gonna have to do a fucking job like over the next while to make Christian in any way sympathetic, to make him in any way the babyface in this situation. It felt so rushed and so unearned and so opposite to the way these characters have been portrayed for a while. It's not even like, and it's going to be an uphill battle to get any sympathy on Christian going forwards as a babyface, but it's not like they've really laid any foundation for it coming in. But it was all to save this big return of Cope, who cared so much about his ex-mate that he came out and did his full fucking entrance side to side on the way out. His song played and he got his pop, so he's happy. He got his cheesy line in there about Christian, which I guess was a positive, at least in that they didn't immediately hug, and we are going to get some work backwards to get there. But I still don't know how we get there when it comes to Edge and Christian as a babyface acting and Christian as a babyface acting AEW. And unlike some of the stories I'm willing to be patient with in AEW, it's not something I'm looking forward to see take place as well, because based on everything that you saw here, like, it was just a big reminder to me that Cope's got the exact opposite instincts of any wrestler I'm ever going to potentially like, because he is just the most fed-built man on planet Earth. I'm going to get fed-level cinema story with him and Christian now over the next few months to get to a place that I don't think a lot of the AEW audience want to see. But in fairness, it was over in the building, and there's certainly some kind of fan there that is still a fan of Cope. But yeah, this was definitely not my AEW, this JP, even if you might have rightly called where we were going with this stuff.
Yeah, some of the stuff I call, it's not like I like it. It's just I kind of think this is what they're going to do. They're going to preface it with that. I mean, as soon as he ran to the left, we just pissed ourselves laughing and went, for fuck's sake, this is worse than Jeff Hardy. At least he was moving in a forward motion while doing that. Like, at least I could understand that for this. But to the point where I wanted Nick Wayne to just go, well, fuck it. If you're going to drag your heels, fuck it. There's the concerto. And then we're just going to deliver it while your music is going on. And then we're just going to jump out the ring, because by the time you get here, we'll be gone. Yeah, there's going to be
looking forward, wasn't it, that FTR were on the outside? Just a great, perfect story beat that in storytelling, that they just happened to be there for no good reason. Which
was weird in the way that they let Hurt Syndicate off, even though very clearly, because it happened in front of their eyes, and they do have eyesight, as far as I could tell, is that Bobby Lashley pushed Christian onto them. I'm going to blame the bloke who's pushed, not the fella who's actually caused or instigated this. I'll let that shit slide. And obviously they're teasing that that's going to be one of the directions they go in there after that. But we're going to end up with a lot of segments on TV which are going to feel very sports entertaining and probably basically comedy, while he tries to get Christian behaving like old Christian, like Christian from WWE and all very and of the podcast, and reeks of awesomeness and 5-second poses. We're getting to that point. It's just like you say, whereas I would personally prefer, if you're going to turn Christian babyface, just let him keep his fucking, pardon the pun, let him keep his edge for a bit, rather than going like kind of what is going to be.
You might have to, because he's such an irredeemable bastard in AEW. I can't picture what
wouldn't be convincing.
Possibly do.
Yeah, wouldn't be remotely convincing if they go down there as well. But yeah, Jesus Christ, we had 20 odd minutes before we got to that point of this as well, which is why it didn't really work for me. I mean, you look at the tag division after this match and you go, okay, all right, things can at least feel like there's at least more, it's definitely more star power there. I mean, Hurt Syndicate, and obviously FTR are going to be there. Like I say, maybe Swerve and Ospreay. The Bucks, their storyline will have them just focused in probably going right from the bottom of the card, having to work their way up as a tag team. Okay, and then Edge and Christian. So at least there's some kind of like star power aspects to it. But what's Nick Wayne going to do as well? Because you're relying on a 16-year-old boy to cut fucking cracking promos on live TV. It's like, he's not even good with a fake tan, so I'm not going to trust him with the microphone in it. So, yeah.
Do the motivations make any sense to you as characters, Gareth, where we go? To be honest, I was pretty certain I saw Nick Wayne today in Da Nang, Vietnam, but then it just turned out they're all like 19-year-old fuckboys with the way they all lift the socks up now to their knees, just look like Nick Wayne, because about 3 hours later I saw another book that I thought that looked like Nick Wayne, so don't think it was him, unless he's taking a holiday to Vietnam. But maybe we'll enjoy hating him, maybe they'll get over his heels, maybe Kip Sabian will be a thing. He's fucking still living, isn't he, in this role? I don't know. Do you see any way they get to the place they clearly want to get here, Gareth?
I mean, I clearly didn't hate this as much as you two did, because it was obviously the route that they were going down, and for me it was more the intrigue of, well, how do they get there kind of thing, how do they set it up, and then the idea of them suddenly hugging at the end and it being like the, Christian's turned kind of thing after the beatdown. That was like, I was thinking they can't do that sort of thing. So
that's one positive.
the go find yourself thing to me was like, that's logical, that makes sense kind of thing. He's not just going to be suddenly, he's going to have to like earn it back, and they've fallen out in the past, and and things like that. So there's mechanics there that they can use to get there, get to the right point with that. But I think with the Nick Wayne stuff and things, I think that's something that they've put on TV for a few months, really. I think where there's been like the backstage promos and things, and you've had like Christian saying things and him getting like side-eyed off Nick and his mum and things, and then like him making him stand behind it and then allowing him to stand next to him. And so there's been a lot of like looks there. Is even when Christian first came back, there was sort of like a bit of dissension there with Christian initially. So I think they've laid some seeds along the way for it to be clear that they're not totally happy with Christian, like as a whole. So some effort's gone into doing that. And then, I think if I'm thinking about where do I want, if Edge and Christian are under contact with AEW and they've got to be on TV, like, and so they're going to insert them at some level, this is probably where I want to see them, in the tag team, in the mid card, probably doing some story stuff. I don't want them fucking involved in the main event. I don't want so if they've got to be there and they've got to be used, this is probably how I'd want them to be used. And like you say, it might not necessarily be for us so much in terms of like the match or the things that go with it, but you only have to look at that crowd reaction like yesterday. There's going to be people who will eat up an Edge versus Christian FTR match that's number 4 on a pay-per-view. Like, there is people going to enjoy it, and it's going to add a feeling of kind of star power and sort of, levity there at that level for people. So, yeah, while there's like elements of it that I could say, if I'm booking this from scratch, am I putting these on the card and doing this? Like, no, but I still think there's enough there that it's probably the right direction they need to go for these characters right now. And is it going to add more than it takes away when they're operating at that level on the card? Probably yes, kind of thing. I think it's going to be, it's probably going to be a positive more than a negative, especially with the way the tag team division's been flushed out, as JP pointed out.
I mean, Connor's said the point I was going to say in the chat, which is all of the stuff, the go find yourself stuff, it times up very nicely for Scotiabank Arena and Toronto, for them to be the match of them against FTR. Whether you headline
soon though for me,
for that,
still soon. Like
it's
I think at its point, like, in fairness, we've done a lot of the segments, on Dynamites and mainly collisions more than anything, as far as like, the dissension and stuff. I just don't think, if you were going to get to a point that Christian's going to be a babyface again, you needed to start putting the work in. You needed to start, because in none of those like interactions that was Christian ever sympathetic. Like, I don't see how you get to that point with that character again. It's a positive that they've started from this point, that they didn't immediately hug, and they are going to do some work. But yeah, even all out being, September, I still think that's soon to get to that point where we're going to be cheering Christian. It's wrestling, worse things have happened, and things that have been even more undercooked have got bigger pop. So yeah, the pop when they come out, presumably he comes out in Canada, is probably going to be worth it there as well. But yeah, for me, just a bit undercooked is the issue. But we'll see. And again, I'm sure that Toronto crowd will very much lap it up. Any thoughts on the match itself?
Pop it in the oven for 2 months, and it'll be hot and ready to go by the time he comes out to make that save in Toronto. Once he's
will they give him Evanescence? Think Tony will pay for it?
Once he's done his finding himself promos. Yeah.
Oh, God.
The match itself, I'm not a Mike Bailey guy, but I thought Mike Bailey looked strong in this. I think they kept him, looking particularly strong. So I thought that was something that was like a positive that came out of this. I think that you mentioned the new gear that Bailey and Knight add on. They just look like a team. They look like they're working as a team. So again, if that's something where they've been given that direction of, well, for 6 months you're a team, then again, it's just another, probably one of the biggest criticisms for AEW throughout this time period has been the tag division and the fact that it's looked a bit threadbare, or some of the names and acts that are in there are people who have run their course, your private parties and your top flights of this world and things like that. So it does give somebody, it is somebody else that can be used in amongst that mix. So I thought that worked, reasonably well. I thought just some good spots. I liked this. I liked Shelton's German when he Germaned Bailey over the top rope to the outside. I thought that looked fucking class. That it looked so cool. And then Nick Wayne hit a cutter from the top on Bailey, stood on the apron as well. That was like a cracking little spot. That one as well. So there was bits and bobs in here in the match along the way. It was while it didn't live up to the two things that had just come immediately before it, it was still better than those first three matches that were out there. So it's sort of like warranted its placement beyond those three in my mind.
Any thoughts on the match yourself, JP?
I wasn't mad about the match. It was fine for what it was. I mean, I would also say as well for the entrance that MVP should never wear a baseball cap, because he just can't fucking carry it off. Like he really
I think it looks cool. It looks like an 80s rapper to me. I like it.
With the suit, I don't know. It didn't work for me, put it that way. But I thought, I mean, Gareth's kind of mentioned I really enjoyed that German spot as well. And I also thought the way Hurt Syndicate work, I mean, it feeds into a pre-existing narrative about them kind of like not wanting to show any ass to anyone. And they looked at times like fucking almost reckless, like just like fucking.
I think Cash said that on commentary. I think he literally said a line, something about like you don't see them on the back often or something. Some line that felt dead. Nobody really applied to it. It was just a bit of dead air afterwards, but he got his little shot in.
But when I'd kind of went against them because I just thought, maybe that some of the interference would be some of the stuff that would end up like, costing them the titles in order to further the story. It just felt like at the end of it, the Hurt Syndicate at the end of this match had cleared out the tag division for a bit. But at least with FTR on commentary, we are going to get to that stage, I think, sooner rather than later. And then the FTR sneak their way through getting the titles. Like, I think that feels like the route for them to go. But for me, it was a 3-star tag match. It was perfectly fine. Jet Speed had some good moments, and then Nick Wayne is a hell of a talent. There's just a lot on him at this stage for a lad that's 20, that going into the direction of what is going to be like kind of like a big feud for him. So I'm just sort of hoping all the best for him.
Yeah, that's it. He wants to make sure he's the Sean and not the Marty in that team with Kip Sabian as well. That's what I will know whether he's keep it as a
Kip Sabian. With the best will in the world, will never be Sean. He will always be Marty at best in there as well. And at least he's got a fellow who can eat pins that's next to him. So.
Like you said, stealing the living, and like that is literally what I've written down here when I saw Kip Sabian like on that show.
Exactly what Joe said.
I looked and he's had 9 matches since the start of 2024. You're like, is anybody like doing less to get their cash than him? Like, unreal. Like, why is he there? Like,
he might be the promo guy a lot as well. He might have to carry the promos, obviously, with Dad gone. Like, it's not going to be Nick Wayne most likely, and Mother Wayne's basically a mute when she's not doing a Vicky Guerrero impression. We'll see. Maybe they'll pair them with somebody, or maybe the FTR association will last longer. Who knows? But yeah, they're probably going to be cannon fodder on the way to FTR. But we'll see. But yeah, from there we got to the real main events of the show. I think it was billed as a double main event. I'm pretty sure going in, it became a triple main event, as they did put the women's world title match here. Interestingly, before Kenny and Okada, but we will get there. But again, I'll go to you first on this one, Gareth. We can probably talk the entrances before we even talk the match. Again, I think if Ospreay came across like a big star in his one, they went for it here as well with these two. I'm not sure what old film they were referencing referencing with Toni Storm, but it looked good, and it fit her character, and she came across as a big star. And I thought Mercedes entrance, of course, we have to do the Eddie Guerrero nod. I guess we're in Texas, so it's fine with the lowrider and stuff. But I did enjoy it having the cheerleaders with each of them having like one of the belts. I thought that was a really nice touch. And despite my slagging off of Eddie Guerrero over the years, I did think it was it did make it look like a star sat on the back of that lowrider there. This was very much like we've said. I think Gareth, you've been a bit higher on the build on this than me and JP. But at the end of the day, it was always AEW's two biggest stars in the on the women's side at the very least going up against each other. And as I think we probably could have predicted when it came to the night, that's very much what this felt like, and it started from the entrances here.
Absolutely, because the way these two entrances were presented, like it felt like it could have been last, didn't it? You know, you talk about triple main event. This felt like
people thought it might a while back.
It felt like main event time. The crowd reacted to the entrances like it was main event time, and again, it just you talk about this like card kind of like taking steps up as you go. This felt like an even bigger step up, like when you get to this point. And again, that's where they both just carried across like immediately. Like Mercedes Moné's entrance looked great, kind of thing. Those cheerleaders done a better job than Will Ospreay's assassins. Definitely, they fit the part of you, and there was a bit more better coordination and synchronicity here between them, and like what a visual that is, you know, with the Toni Storm, with the black and white, but with the red kind of thing as well. Yeah. Like, you know, in a stadium with a screen that size, it was all timer stuff that like it looked absolutely incredible. And obviously the red lipstick as well, been the thing like popping out on her as a person, just like perfect setup. And yeah, just really you know, it felt like one of those. You put your two biggest stars out there and go and have a match. Like the match itself could almost have been secondary in a lot of ways to the level of sort of overness that it felt like they both had. But then the match delivered as well, really, wasn't it? So you know, what more could you want?
You high on this one, JP?
Oh, I'm high on this one as well. And you mentioned about it. I love the robe she had with all the names of all the people that she defeated. It was
that was cool. Didn't even leave some out, did they? They didn't Cody Rhodes, no. Some of those women, they were still there.
Yeah, Kanji was on there. Kyrie was on there as well. I mean, it's like, you know, some good shit. Britt Baker, obviously, as well. And yeah, I thought in terms of what the thing that this match had was, my mind went back to a year previous, and the last All In, well, it was a little under a year, but all the queues of people running to go to the loo as soon as it was Mercedes Moné and Britt Baker.
God, yeah.
Whereas here, like Gareth mentioned, the levels of overness were fucking insane. And this was a crowd, like you say, who was just absolutely just willing to go with it as well. And I thought, I mean, there's something about it's not that Toni Storm has massively adapted in terms of like her moveset or anything else like that. It's just that everything has meaning to it because she is massively over. And I think that's the thing that and Mercedes Moné, as we've seen many times in the past, you put her on, I would say the big stage, but you can put her on the small stage as well. You put her in those kind of situations, and she's going to be able to deliver. I thought this was
a really good year.
Oh, really good year. And it's going to be a very, like, I think when we're talking about, like, when we're doing the grappies, and we're talking about Women's Wrestler of the Year, it'd be fucking genuinely tough, like, to pick from. Good arguments either way. I don't know how, I mean, in terms of the result, I think I'd convince myself it was going to be Mercedes Moné all of the way, but I'm fine with this, much like any of the results that didn't go, or maybe one of the other ones I'm a bit like, okay. But this, I thought, was absolutely fucking outstanding. There was a point I thought they were going to lose me with the 3 Storm Zeros, and then she kicked out, and I went, oh, fuck. Like, I thought, okay,
that's
the finish. But the Avalanche Storm Zero, like, just to go, no, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it from the fucking second rope. Just an awesome finish for this as well. And just a really cracking match. Bit of silliness at the start, which, again, absolutely fine with.
The bite.
But it was, exactly. But had us all the way to the end.
That's just Toni Storm living this character. That's the thing. She's like, we had our misgivings about the character. There's been segments where we haven't loved, I think, JP. Whereas, again, I think Gareth's been higher on it, like from the start. But I don't think she's a gimmick anymore. She is a gimmick, but she's become the gimmick. Do you know what I mean? It's not performative in any way. Like, it's just every part of it. And like interviews she does with the press, to the press conferences, which I don't love, them do it in character stuff. But if you're gonna do it, she's fucking committed, and she's committed in every body movement in these matches, and she connects on a level that I just don't think she ever has in a career either. So it's just perfect. And Mercedes, like I say, Gareth, with the year that she's having, we probably should have expected this to be the hit it sounds like we all think it was.
Definitely. And again, it's, I don't want to repeat myself across shows, but it's something that turned such a big corner on Mercedes. Like, she's really found her feet, kind of thing. She's really sort of proven her worth to the company, I think, whereas she wasn't proving her worth to the company in her first 12 months, probably. Whereas now that the value in investing in her has really sort of come to the fore, and just the sort of like confidence that she's got in herself, the ring work that she's got in herself, knowing how to position her in certain ways. It's almost like they get who Mercedes Mone is. Maybe there was that thing of like, who is Mercedes Mone versus Sasha Banks, because it is different kind of thing, and there's been that kind of finding your feet within the character that she's had to do as well. Which again, I think you've got two people here coming to the ring who both very much know who they are, very much invested in who they are as wrestling characters, and sort of both live it, sort of thing. So to see them come in and collide like that was, one really looking forward to. And like, even just right at the start, when I talked before about like the Bucks Swerve Ospreay like start of the match, I just really just enjoyed the sort of start to this one, where they had that like tight lock up and then the roll to the outside, and then Mercedes kind of holding the ropes for Toni to come in, sort of almost trying to that power play, almost like I'm in charge kind of thing, like I'm holding the ropes for you, and then Toni rolling under the bottom of the rope, like no, I'm in charge here kind of thing. And there's just a little bit mind games that just came after that. She sort of spanked Mercedes over her knee, and then she sent Mercedes to the outside, and she was doing like the Mercedes dance to her and things, riling up Mercedes, like getting in her head and things early on. That's what Toni Storm would do, and that's what Mercedes Mone would fucking hate, kind of thing. So it was just like a perfect setup from that point of view at the start of the match. And then Mercedes been the one who then becomes sort of like that more of the aggressor kind of thing, with the meteor onto Toni and Luther, and then that like power bombing her on the floor and things like that. That just sort of set up early on was just really quite logical. But just some of the spots that. Or some of the moves that were like it here, if I'm going to do moves. But that fucking snap fisherman that Toni Storm hit on, I loved that. Like, I was just like, it's a fucking fisherman suplex, but just the way she just hit it, like with such that sort of sharp snap on it, like I was like, that's like just top level looking things with that. Like, I love when she had the like Juju Katami on her, and then Toni escaped by catapult and Mercedes like throat first into the bottom rope kind of thing. Again, that was just a sort of felt a bit unique and a bit different in the way that they went out and hit that as well. Like, so there was just some good little sort of like sequences or move spots that they put into the mix there. But then even just the stuff with the finishes as well, because obviously you talk about like the kicking out of the Storm Zero at 2.99. That's probably one of the most protected moves in wrestling. Really, there's not many people who've kicked out of a Storm Zero. So when she hit that, I was like, it's over. Kind of like I immediately just bought that it was over. So then the kick out was a real good spot. And then when she hit it with the 3 Storm Zeros, I was like, it's definitely over now, isn't it? Like, no, kind of thing. Like the kick up. So they got me twice, kind of thing, with that as well. Which I think I love getting got, kind of thing. I love it when like I buy the pinfall. It's like such sort of a joy. And then the way she hit the one off the top for the win. Again, just like, well, what are you going to do? She's kicked out of 1. She's kicked out of 3. I'm going to fucking take it at the top. I'm going to hit it from the top, kind of thing. And just again, the way it looked. That that's something that could have maybe looked overly safe or something, in the way that they did it. Like, no, it looked like I'm fucking finishing your ear, kind of thing. That absolutely, she was so good. So I was like, I rewind it a couple of times, just watching Mercedes kind of thing as like she hit, and I just
It's like a dead body, wasn't she?
loved it. Brilliant, like really, really good stuff, and like what a really, really good match this was. Like proper enjoyed it.
To your point there on the near falls, like again, a bit like the Bucks tag. I think the people were buying into the idea that Mercedes was going to go over. So I think they used that to their advantage, and they made it feel really like that was coming at the end. I mean, if you believe some, I've definitely heard people say that it looked like Mercedes had a boo-boo face going into this one, but it wasn't showing a performance because she did everything she could there to get Toni over and get the finish over. And I think that's just, maybe people reading the character wrong, or preconceived ideas of her in general behind the scenes, which every time a story comes out about like, oh, she's throwing a weight around, she's doing this, it always turns out to not actually be true. I think people have just got, I don't know, they buy the character too much and it becomes a shoot. I'm not really sure what it is with Mercedes, but she was every bit the pro here, and she did everything she needed to do here to be the loser, because like we were talking about it on Weekend Show, like I just felt quietly confident Toni Storm was going over here. I think it was a given for a lot of people, especially once you put Athena over in the casino, like that, a lot of people just thought it was a given that Mercedes was going over here. But I really felt like this was, and again, I think we often we fall into this trap with wrestling where I think because we're all trying to decide who's going to win and lose the match, like the night of the show, we assume the booker is making that decision too. But like really, this was going to go this match either existed because it was going to be an entire sea change in the division and Mercedes was going to be the new champion, and it was a way to get to that, or it was just an attraction match that they could do in the middle of Toni Storm's longer run. And I think that was the option I thought they were going with, and that's the option they're very clearly going with. And I actually think I think there's more to do with Toni Storm as champion. I think there's way more to do with Mercedes. Like, keep this run going, keep her in a little box where she's not quite the proper women's champion in AEW, but she's having these bangers, and you can tell a story of redemption to get her back to that point. She can lose all these belts, and then we can come back to the start again and heat her up, and then here AEW women's title run is going to be its own thing. And I think that's something to look forward to as well. So I'm glad they went in this division. It showed balls from the point that they clearly decided that this was going to be the direction. And yeah, I think it was a perfect matchmaking too. Just brilliant stuff all around.
And you come back to that women's gauntlet match, and then we're talking there about like the little, it's a division that they have paid attention to. Is their women's division with the like small feuds that they've like developed along the way that don't necessarily need to have been about the title, the interactions and things. You maybe get like 2 month feuds on TV and things that like they've put effort into different people. They've got various different people over, and then they've like used them in different ways. It would have felt illogical here to then have Mercedes take that belt as well, and then it's like, oh well, now everything's become focused here, whereas now you keep that separate. You can have a fresh match there for Mercedes, a fresh match for Toni with like different people coming in it. The work that they've done at the undercard level is that will pay dividends that we'll see come through like at that like more advanced level on the card as well. So it made sense on that basis for me that Toni would win, just so that you don't shoot yourself in the foot by having all your eggs in one basket there on Mone, and then and I think again it'll pay dividends over the next half year as well with some of the things that they can have set up there.
Agreed. I mean, I love this match. What would you give it star rating wise? I think I'd 4.5 maybe for me. Again, it's in that 4.25, 4.5 range, like the Bucks tag. I think it's kind of tied with that for me as far as at this point in the show me match of the night. I thought it was fantastic.
I had it as 4.25. I haven't gone back and rewatched this, and it might have just been a slight tiredness thing, but I'll happily go back and rewatch this again.
Oh yeah, I had to watch it twice to get to that point, and again, it was no slight on the match. It was just
it was a long fucking show, isn't it? And it's just like okay.
Long to watch.
Yeah,
4.33.
There you go. That's what I'll go with. 4.33. Join me on the fence, Gareth. It's the best place to be. Agreed. But no, great presentation altogether, and yeah, wasn't it a slight for so long at AEW that they don't like have the stars wrestle each other, especially when the big shows come? Like, that feels like a long fucking time ago now. And yeah, you're gonna have your stars wrestle each other. You do it here, and we'll get a rematch at some point at a big show again. And I'd be quite happy to wait for that to come in different circumstances for both characters as well. Just brilliant stuff. And yeah, I think for some the hits kept coming here, but I'll be interested in what you guys take is on the next match, which I actually think maybe it's a hindsight point, but maybe I would have put in it before the women's match. But it had this pride of place: Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada. I suppose again we're going to start with the entrances. Although we'll start with JR. JR came out. That was nice to see. I actually thought he was all right. For once, I think he was fine.
He looked quite well.
I didn't get away too much. He did, yeah, he did. And like I think maybe it helped that there was about 27 people in the commentary booth, but I think he didn't overstep boundaries too much, at least in this match. And he did just chime in when he felt like it was right for him to chime in. I had no problem with him during this match, and that's you for me. But like again, it is a real life nice story too. I'm not completely heartless, so I like that. I thought Okada looked like literally like $1 million coming out. The best he's looked is from a look point of view and a presentation point of view, like the getting the hair freshly dyed and all that stuff. Thought he looked brilliant. Kenny looked like a massive nerd, but that's Kenny. You get that with his nerdy music and his nerdy singer. But sounded, because he did look great, as far as like the entrance get up and stuff like that. But still felt big time, and he saves the big time dramatic anime song or whatever it is for these big shows. Kenny's always going to be Kenny, isn't he? So you got a bit of that too.
I love that tune. Like, since he's been using that, I think it's an absolute banger. And then to like hear it live, and that bloke's voice was like perfect.
He was good.
He was good. To be perfect. I loved every bit of Kenny's intro. I love that song. I think
You're never going to change.
Boss. It's such a boss like wrestling theme for Kenny Omega. Honestly,
I'm glad he doesn't use it on Dynamite anymore. I think it's better on the pay-per-views.
Buzzing off that, so good. But like you say, the entrances, like Okada just looked a fucking $1 million as well, didn't he? Like it looked proper. It looked when they were like, when they were just there at the start. I was like, given that obviously the last Okada Omega's fresh in our memories from reviewing it quite recently, it was like, no, actually, this does look like Okada versus Omega at the start of the match. It didn't feel less than, like, at that point sort of thing. It definitely felt like two big stars, definitely.
Yeah, and the match, I mean, I've got to go straight to you, Gareth, on this one. Like, I'm desperate to know what you thought of it, because I'm so split myself on it. Like, I think, again, I don't think any of us going in were expecting 7 stars, and I think the way they plotted the story and made it more of a personal issue was an indication they knew it wasn't going in that direction. I think that's the reason Don Callis got involved. That's the reason, this story became what it became, and Okada stayed very much in that heel mode, and it became a lot about Kenny Omega, selling his internal injuries as only Kenny can. And that was the positive to me of the match. I thought like the physical interactions between Kenny and Okada felt a bit like riding a bike. It just felt like right away that chemistry clicked again in a very different way, in a way where it's like, yeah, we're eight years older, and we move like we're 8 years older, and we sell like we're 8 years older. And like it felt like they were telling like a very interesting story that, Kenny's still trying to be Kenny, but again, he's at this point in his career, he's been laying the seeds. Even like his Observer interview he did last week, don't know how many more of these I've got in me. And Kenny, is there a work there? That usually is, and it played into the story. I thought that physical story was fantastic, and that's the type of storytelling I want in wrestling. And it made Okada look like a bastard going after Kenny's midsection. And I thought, as it's Kenny Omega, he did a great job selling it. I think where the match maybe lost me a little bit was like the heavy-handedness of, while it gave them a story beat to get here, the Don Callis stuff and the interference of the Don Callis jobbers and all of that stuff. I understand why maybe they thought they needed it here, but I actually think the work was of a quality that maybe they didn't. And again, I'm not saying that work was 7-star quality, but the work was tracking in the right direction to me before we got to that stuff. But yeah, it leaves me in a bit of a split position on it, Gareth. But yeah, where did it fit to you as far as expectations versus reality go? And like I say, I think the general take out there, I think, at least from what I've seen, is people were a touch disappointed by this. But yeah, having watched that match very recently on the Patreon, were you in that group? Or yeah, what did you make of the way they laid this thing out?
I definitely wasn't disappointed, because I think I went into it with my expectations that, like, look, like, we've watched that match, we've had them conversations as fuck, that was 7 years ago, kind of thing. Like, how much has changed? what's different in the world for these two guys now compared to then. I think if anybody went into this match expecting that it was going to be on the same level as like last time or at that time period, then like, you know, I don't know what to tell you, kind of thing, you know, because I think you had to have kind of like leveled out expectations from that point. I think my biggest thing was thinking, well, my biggest intrigue was not necessarily on the quality of the match. It was more on how they would put the match together. What would this match be like? What does a 2025 Okada Omega match look like? And do they have to work in a different way or do something massively different to what they've done before to try and deliver a top tier match in a different style, or to make sure that it didn't kind of like underwhelm versus things that had gone before? And I've got to be honest, like I really enjoyed it. Like I think it, like I think it probably exceeded my expectations a little bit, which might be the other way around because my expectations were not up there as to where it was. I'm like, I found that again. I felt like there was like a decent bit of parallel with that last match that we watched in terms of some of the things that like happened to you, where you know we talked in that around. You know, there was for totally different reasons. Like Okada was working the midsection like during that match previously, sort of thing. So there was that like continuity where Kenny's midsection is obviously much weaker now for different reasons, kind of thing, that it was all the way back at Dominion. And so Okada was, still working along that way. You still had Kenny going after Okada's sort of neck and back a bit, but not to the extent that he was able to like the previous time as well. So there was just those like there was that little sort of crossover there with this. But I think the big thing was we talked in I talked in a lot of detail, maybe too much detail, about the counter side from an Okada standpoint that applied in that last match. And again, you got that counter aspect coming here, so that like every single time, like Kenny had that little rally or that little burst where he thought that he could like get himself, back on top, get back into the game. Okada was able to just like cut him off or counter by, going back to that midsection every time. So, whether it was like, Kenny having that little rally and going for the moonsault and Okada getting his knees up, or it was like Kenny running the ropes to try and create a bit of separation. No, Okada's going to cut him off with like a knee to the midsection, or then there was where Kenny sort of like rallied with the missile drop kick to the back of the Okada's head, but then Okada immediately countered, like pushing him abdomen first, not sternum first, into the buckle there as well. So you always had these little like Okada like cut-offs and counters that he was able to like build in there, and then like even when Kenny had those bigger rallies, there was just things like when Okada hit that John Woo, like it was right in the abdomen where he like hit him with the John Woo dropkick and things. So again, it just sort of it's a move that you see kind of people hit it towards the chest and things like that, but no, it was in the abdomen kind of thing. That was like purposeful like elements that they built in there. So I felt like that the match story that they like set up along to that point, I just enjoyed. I was just getting lost in the story that they were telling, and as you say, Benno, from the actual the bits that they did, the moves that they did, the holds that they did in between that to join the dots along the way. Like you say, it was like riding a bike, wasn't it? It was like yesterday. It was that had a match. Everything just felt like really kind of like smooth and timed to perfection, and like the bigger things that they hit all looked well executed and taken well and sold well and things that like looked like they had a just a bit of something about them. There was no safety first kind of element here that was going into some of this stuff. So like you sort of say there, I say it probably exceeded my expectations. Like I've gone like 4.5 on that, which is above the other two matches that I've really, really enjoyed. There was still enough and more than enough within this to just like tip me to the next level. And even sort of some of the Don Callis stuff towards the end didn't really take away from that with me, because it didn't feel overwhelming in the way that it came into the match either. So like again, I was just sat there feeling like, yeah, two absolute like fucking masters of the art again, just like coming out and okay, they're not busting out 7 stars yet, but they're still coming out and delivering something that's just on a significantly better than most people are going to go out there and deliver. And it left me thinking, well, they've got another one in the mirror, haven't they, kind of thing. They've got more of a story to tell now, kind of thing. Like Omega wants to come back the other way, and he's got to prove himself again, like he had to do after the first match that they had last time around, and he had to work it back to be able to beat Okada. He's now got this very visible and obvious physical deficiency that Kenny now has to find a way of, how do I beat Okada when I know that he can counter me and come back to my abdomen every time? Like, that's something that I'm sitting thinking like, oh, that's a good little blank canvas for them to kind of like work with and think about how we come back at it and do this differently. So fully enjoyed it, and I think not only do I think there's more in the match or the matches between them two, I want it kind of thing now. Whereas probably if you'd have asked me 3 months ago, I'd have been like, Okada Omega, like, really, do we need to go back to this now? What's it even going to be? Is it just going to be a big disappointment? But like they've got me kind of thing. I'm right there with it.
Final of the CC, Platt says here it could be.
Yeah.
Where'd you land on it, JP? Because like to be honest, I thought I was the high man on it compared to at least our Discord, but it sounds like Garrett's even higher on it than me. Like I say, for me the interference was too much, especially Callis, dragging the ref out on the one-winged angel near fall. It was just so campy and so over the top, and it almost felt like it betrayed maybe a lack of confidence in what they could have done and what they did do and what they built in the match just with the two wrestlers in it. It didn't need that for me. That was made it lesser than rather than more than, and kind of I was ready to go say like a 4.5, and I wound up probably 4, I'd say, on it. So again, above maybe where some would go on it, but I think still higher than the average. Unless you're the high man on it, JP, or are you the low man here today?
I don't know if I'd be the high man. I mean, I'd probably be the same. I'd probably be going for me around 4 stars, which sounds like a massive slight. It's almost like you have to go in and say, is this as good as the other 4 matches? Well, no, but there's very obvious reasons. Things such as time.
It's Joe Punk 3. It's another type of match compared to the other two. Exactly what I wanted them to do in a lot of ways.
And do you know what? I like that. I was kind of fine with it. The interference is the bit I've probably got the most issue with. The idea of it being sort of slowed down for those first 20 minutes. And I should say as well, I was kind of flagging at this point when I was watching. I was like, Jesus, it is much later than I'm used to staying up. And we've got like a long protracted beatdown, but all of that it logically makes sense. It's an accepted, like, it's like you've just said, it's an accepted part of what a Kenny Omega match is going to be in 2025/2026. Is we're gonna, he's got this obvious weakness. People would be daft not to go for it for some sort of like, high and mighty reason. So it's absolutely kind of fine. I thought that it was, in terms of like, I loved some of the little callbacks. I loved the fact that I think there was a point where Kenny went for the sunset flip and then he just sat down on the knees, and I was just like, oh, and it helps having watched Dominion 2018 not that long ago. I was like, I thought so that glad was really we did cool. That show. Yeah. Oh God, that massively helped for this as well. And it's more a throwback from the very first match when he does the Snapdragon off the top, but this time round, Okada's not landing on his fucking neck. It's like he's able to land just on the side of his face, which is perfectly fine for that as well. And I would say with the Don Callis interference, the one good thing, the timing on it was absolutely perfect for being able to play a referee.
It was kind of like, well, he's not kicking out, but it doesn't seem like it's the finish. How they're going to get out of it? I just think it's beneath them. I think it's beneath the work that these two can do.
Yeah.
I Sophia in the chat there saying she's the low woman on it.
That's the thing with it. It is in some ways you're damned if you do and damned if you don't with this. It's like you're going back to something, and you're also kind of you're westernizing it, aren't you, in the process by having the interference. It's not just seconds on the outside who are banging the mat trying to give you inspiration, but they're just never going to get involved. They are getting actively involved in this. And my thoughts went to it, and it was a bigger conversation we were having going. It's going, okay, it feels like we're setting up another trilogy here. And I was thinking, and then it was at that point, it was like, okay, well, it makes sense for Okada to win this one, which wasn't what I predicted. I predicted it to be Omega because I didn't think they'd go back to this match so quickly. But I think you could probably do a rematch in Toronto with him and Okada, and then you do the final of the Continental Classic as the trilogy, and you have that sort of like thrown into the mix. And that one can't have any interference because of the rules they have for the Continental Classic. There's nobody else at ringside and there's no interference. Otherwise, you instantly
Tony was strongly pushing that because he was I think he realized there was a big like logic gap there, and that if this was because isn't the thing supposed to be with the Continental Belt that the rules are very, very, very strictly enforced. Why you can't do that in every match, I don't know. But apparently in those matches, he said something in the presser like if this had been just for the Continental title and Don Callis would have been fired or something, tried to cover for it. But I think it's probably right that we'll get another match there. But it's Tony Khan booking, isn't it? We did it with Joe Punk. We'll get a AEW version of the trilogy, I think, a different version of it, but a version of it. And I think where I agree with you, Gareth, is like, I'm up for it now. I'm up for seeing this version of it and this type of story that these two can tell. Just like I say, just don't necessarily need Don Callis playing Dick Togo on the outside. Oh well.
But it's the stage of it that also you're almost duty bound. If you've got a chance to deliver this match on this kind of stage, you deliver that match. That's just sort of like, it's like booking malpractice if you don't. Even if it's probably my fault. I hold those 4 matches. They're so ridiculously good and in such high regard that you can't like. How do you meet that standard when both of them are older and considerably slower than what it was? And it's not bad at all. Like, I think when they started to basically go home, I thought, this is still fucking tremendous stuff. This is still a very good match. It's probably it's just hard for me, and it might be just a personal thing for me to almost separate those other matches from this. But that's more me than it is anything to do with them. And if you love the match as much as you did, Gareth, just that bit more than I did, that's fair enough. I can completely see where you're coming from.
I'd be very interested to know how I would have felt about it if I was watching it live as opposed to the next day. I think if I was jaded at this point, whereas when I was watching it the following day, I was taking, I didn't watch it solid kind of thing. I was watching 3 matches and then doing, putting a wash in and things like that for 20 minutes, then coming back to it, watching a bit more, and then doing something else. So I think I watched this like entirely just fresh as well, sitting down. So I was like ready for it, kind of, as well. And I think I was probably more mentally invested in it from that point of view, rather than having just watched 4.5 hours of wrestling immediately before it and like struggling to stay awake. Because I say like things like the Callis thing, like I think I was lost in this match so much at that point that like when Kenny hit it, I was like, fuck, he's done it, kind of thing. Like because he'd been coming from under, getting cut off all the time, going back to the weakness of the injury, because he tried to do stuff and not been able to hit it because of the physical demands on his body to be able to do it. That when he hit it, like again, maybe this pay-per-view is just a story of me fucking buying near falls all night or something like that. But when he hit it, I was just like, fuck. And then like, so when like Callis, I was genuinely like, oh, and I wasn't like, no,
he shot it well as well with the camera.
It wasn't a no from me, like, oh no, don't get involved, don't ruin the sanctity of this match by having outside interference. It was like, oh no, he's costing the win, So it was like I was invested, kind of thing. I think and that's probably one of the good things that this match did, was get me invested to that level. Whereas again, prior to it, I wasn't sure that they could.
No, that's totally fair. And again, with the Callis stuff, maybe if we hadn't seen it so much in AEW over time, it just feels like a trope of Don Callis versus Kenny Omega feuds that we're doing again. It's not like it feels new or fresh. I think that's the other thing. But you're totally right. A lot of the chat saying the same thing. This is the point in the night where a lot of people are flagging. So maybe that explains, the overall, I'd say overall negative take to this one. But sounds like we're all at least mostly positive on it. And so, yeah, definitely. Sorry, JP.
Yeah, just going to say, to throw in the lowest hanging fruit ever, if this is disappointing for a big time AEW match, then what the fuck was WrestleMania? Like, seriously, I just would have walked out of the fucking stadium. Not this. Like, if this is like, oh, it's a big match, but it's disappointing. Just putting it into that comparison, it's not like the shite they put out. Like, we're a fucking million miles away from that.
Oh, speaking of which, we get into our main event. And to be fair, got to hand it to the haters every now and then. The crowd were up for it, despite the length of the show and despite the grumbling from a lot of us. They were well up for it because it had been well built, and we were all very excited. Jon Moxley versus Hangman Page in the main event of All In here. And again, maybe they did it one too many times on the other card, but again, the entrances for this, like, just to set the scene, like, this just felt just immediately, like, even if I was flagging a little bit a couple of matches earlier, immediately I was awake, you know. Yeah. Obviously there's the Moxley entrance to get into as well with his gigantic monster truck as well, but like the second Hangman Page walked out there and like everything about it, like obviously the video leading up to it and the lady whistling I love that. I've Steph was saying she didn't like it. I was a big fan of that. I quite enjoyed that, and that going into the old theme as well, which is like the Hangman Page babyface theme. It hadn't occurred to me. Like, I remember in 1997 when Sting and Hogan was happening at Starrcade, I was the one fan who was convinced Sting wasn't going to be the Crow. Sting was going to come out and Man Called Sting was going to hit, and he was going to be back to being a surfer in 1997, which probably wouldn't really have made sense or worked. But basically, they did that idea, but here, and it was the perfect moment for Hangman Page to go back to that, like, lore, like Hangman Page, the character, and it's become a thing they say on screen, hasn't it? It's something we always say. The main character of AEW, and you know, all of that lore like coming to fruition here, and that's a big part of it. You know, moody cowboy Hangman came out to the moody song. Like, this song like hit him was just like, it was pure joy. And then seeing him walk out there in this stadium again, pure joy. The reaction to him, pure joy. And it's just like, wow. Like, just that moment, that visual, like, there's an amazing photo on like the AEW media page that I'll probably use for something when we put this podcast out, where it's just Hangman in front of just his normal backdrop of the video, but you can see like just the gigantic stadium behind them, and it's like, I just want to freeze frame that moment and be like, put it on my wall. Like, that is AEW, isn't it? That's what I was feeling, the goosebumps. I was banging the table. It was just fucking yes. This is, like, I don't care how they got there or when the idea was hatched or whether we were close to doing an Ospreay match or not. This is the most perfect possible thing you could have. Hangman Adam Page coming out to be the babyface challenger against Moxley, and it was just like pure hook it to my veins stuff, Gareth.
Honestly, I'll go, Matty. I've got fucking goosebumps, mate. Honestly, just thinking about it. I'm just thinking about
it's what we do this for, isn't it?
The Western whistling like theme, the old music hitting, like, genuinely, I've got fucking like my spine's tingling. Obviously, just thinking about it. Like, what a moment! How fucking cool! What a brilliantly built babyface! Just like him, just stood at the top of that ramp and coming out. Like, you just like the way it's been built for the last few like weeks and months as well. Like, just fucking there with him, kind of thing. But like having a wrestling babyface at the age of like that you are now, after all these years of wrestling, that you're just fucking there with, and you just want to win, and you can't wait to see him like get over the line and get that belt. Like, fucking brilliant. And then again, after all that time, the crowd just fucking there with him as well. That whole stadium just absolutely rabid for it. Like, oh, like I just want to go and watch it now. Can we finish?
It's such a rare thing. Look, and that's the. I was gonna make the joke then, but I didn't want to cut into it. But enough about Jey Uso. But like, that was the secret sauce of WWE. That like that's the thing. They've gotten baby faces over, and you know their fans are attached to them, and it's wrestling, isn't it? Like, you want to have a baby face on top. You want to have baby faces on top, you know, more than Jey Uso on the WWE end. But you want to have that. You want to have people believe in them. I can't think of anybody, JP, who's like got like the entire company uniform, like the entire fan base uniform behind them, like Hangman Page is here. Like, name you somebody who likes AEW, I'll have that qualifier, who doesn't like Hangman Page. Like, the perfect man for the perfect moment here. And AEW capitalizing on it too. Like, again, it's not 6 months ago this wouldn't have happened. 6 months ago we'd have had some other stupid idea, or it'd be Kofi Mox here or something like that. You know, it just feels like a night and day company that we're literally leaning into the things people actually want to see. And what do people actually want to see? Hangman Page in this spot.
That's it. you've always said he is the central character of this company, and in some ways, him getting his old music back is, but him, which is that overtly saying that as well, which is hilarious. But the idea of him using his original music to come out to, it nicely sort of like seals that circle, doesn't it? It's like, he is back as himself as well, and he's kind of feeling himself, and it helped that you've had the sit downs and stuff with Swerve, and it's almost like he's had all the clear the air stuff. He's got all that kind of angst out of his system for it, but he's the most well defined character. He's the one character for whom a lot of the actions and his reactions to stuff has always felt like, there's a good reasoning behind this, and I'm fine. Yeah, there's been some blips in the road, but for the most part, he's always able to add it to the character. And so, like, this is the point. I woke up. And I was, like I say, flagging during Okada Omega. Had picked up a little bit towards the end. Was realizing the time when I saw his entrance for this. I was just like, let's fucking go. I was completely on board with this as well. And Jesus, this match, like, Christ above, like, fucking incredible.
Perfect scenario, and I think we're going to be giving Mox's credit here. I'm sure Gareth raring to go with it as well. But like the perfect oil, but in the moment here, and obviously over the last bits of TV, I think we all agree on as well. Again, him coming out as like the big bad here was, whatever we think about the previous, and I'm sure we're going to get into it. Perfect man to be on the opposite side of the ring here as well. And you say there with the match, JP. I mean, I've got to go straight to you, Gareth. Like, I feel like this almost felt like the Bucks and Ospreay and Swerve match, in that like it's at first there was like a brief few seconds where it was like, oh, okay, we're easing our way into this, obviously bring them down before you can bring them back up again, and then we'll get there. We end up with a fucking fork, and we end up with Hangman Page like stabbing Moxley in the head, and like from that moment on, you could feel like whatever you think about excessively violent matches and over talked like points. I think we're all fucking adults. AEW, operates in a certain space. It's not the Disney company. It's ironically, it's the the company for the sickos. It's the company for the fans who actually like wrestling. I would say shooting. I won't say that on Wednesday, promise. But you know what I mean. It's perfect for these big spots. It's perfect for this type of match between these two characters, and it's perfect for like weirdly deathmatch wrestling when it's done well is actually perfect for stadium wrestling. That's what we've learned from AEW, because the moment like hitting them from that moment on, the crowd was it was like an adrenaline rush for everybody there. And we've been critics in the past of like Moxley going to the blood too often and going to like these deathmatch tropes too often, but if there was ever a fucking moment, and there was ever a moment to do it early, it was this. And obviously we can get into everything that followed, but fuck, I was standing and jumping around from that moment on, and I was ready to fall asleep in the 10 minutes before Hangman Page came out. Just brilliant way to start, Gareth, and let's get into the match itself.
Like 100%, anybody who listens to this show knows what I think about deathmatch wrestling, and the reason I'm thinking about deathmatch wrestling is because there's ultra violence for no reason. This is a match where there was ultra violence, and there was every bit of a reason for ultra violence because of everything that's gone before over the last 6 months, 12 months. Every part of this match, like, it was earned, the levels that they were going to, the things that they were like, things that they were doing here, so that fork to the head spot, like, immediately, well, it made sense in the moment because of the brutality and the violence that Moxley's inflicted. The fact that Moxley's the one thinking he's the one introducing the fork to the match and things. It's like, no, you're getting it, mate. Fucking, and I'm fucking giving it to you. Like, it was just like, yes, like come on. But then for that to then just be immediately like returned the other way, and then like Mox raking that barbed wire into Hangman's forehead, just like, that's how much of a horrible bastard I am. Like, you're going to fork me in the head like that kind of thing, and I'm just immediately just going to bring it right back to you, like level of violence the other way. And this Marina at ringside for me, she's going to fucking bite you where I've just been raking the barbed wire as well. So just like from the off, you've just got like, they're just taking it like to that total like extreme level. And despite obviously Mox being the one like getting forked in the first instance, it's Hangman who's the one absolutely pissing blood at that point, kind of thing. So like right away, you've just got that visual of like him, just like he's brought that level of violence, but then he's the one massively in peril at that point. And then I think everyone keeps going to that fork spot, but the thing right at the start for me was when he put the glass bottles out, and then he like set him up to go and pile drive him into the glass, and then Hangman sort of avoided being pile driven. So Mox just pulling him by the feet through that was brilliant. What a great spot that was. And I was thinking, like, how much wrestling have we watched, kind of thing? But that still felt like, that's different. And you would do that, wouldn't you, kind of thing? Like,
it felt innovative. It felt new. But it felt perfect for Mox's character. Because he'll want to bump you on the glass and stuff like that. But what's he really want to do? He's a fucking mean bastard. He wants to punish you. And, like, we can all imagine what that feels like, can't we? Like, that was brilliant. Proper visceral violence.
I was like off my chair. I was just like, wow, like you say, it's like innovative, it's new kind of thing. It felt like it made it feel like even more of a real fight kind of thing. Just brilliant. Like,
and just kind of ever so unnecessary, which is perfect for Mox's character. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, what a start! What a way to just go. Like, there you go. He's your first 4 minutes probably of the match up to that point. For but this is the level we're at. Right, this is we're not working to get to there. No, we're here now, kind of thing. And then you're just left thinking like, fuck me, what's to come here, kind of thing. Like, it really just set the table.
We hate each other. So why wouldn't we go right to this? Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in your take on it. It's JP, you're not like Gareth said. Gareth's not a deathmatch guy, but I think you're more so not a deathmatch guy.
Yeah.
I imagine you were screaming a bit.
I was, when the fork spot happened, my immediate thought was like, I mean, apart from the fact that we all fucking screamed. Joe was sat there beside me going, fucking hell. And the great thing about that is it was like, here's the clip to show people where they go, in wrestling, they don't even touch each other, do they? Using ketchup for blood. It's like, because if that's fake, then fuck me, then they've got an incredible prosthetics team to put an entire bald section that's layered with blood capsules and stuff like that. But like you say, the reason I was fine with this as a death match is because Moxley had always set out, in theory, it'd always been set out that in order to beat me, you've got to be a nastier fucking bastard than me, and I'm fucking evil. So this is the level that you have to go to in order to do that. And they fucking went there. So for that level of violence, they include like the glass spots in there as well. It's almost like it was a light bump when when Moxley took the power bomb into the upturned chairs. It was like, no, it's almost quite quaint in comparison to
hardest part of the chairs, Taz said.
Yes. I thought all of the chair would be
I think he was
pretty
joking, but it was a funny line if he wasn't.
It was.
But like to Garrett's point, like that early violence is great, but like the thing we were most worried about, JP, in this match was it turning into Avengers Endgame and like the amount of interference we were gonna get. And obviously we don't have to talk about the big interference yet, but actually like the early stages, like it was violent and it got desperate quick, and that fit perfectly for the Mox character, because what has he got on the outside? He's got the ultimate weapon. He's got Marina Shafir on the outside who can give him a crate of bottles to use, or can go up and go biting at Hangman herself, like immediately like that. Getting introduced was perfect for the match as well. Like that level of story was baby stepped into. I thought the structure of weaving that in was way better than I thought it was going to be.
And setting up the tables and the basics of kind of things like that. But there was also, and this is the reason for why this match is for me, one of the reasons it's such a big success. There was nothing else on the show that was like this. Like quite often in cards like this, there'll be something else that there's like some sort of unsanctioned, no rules match, and it gets a whole load of pissing blood. I think the only blood we'd seen up to that point was the Toni Storm nose. That was pretty much it. So
yeah, true.
And I thought to myself, okay, for this to work at this time, given the length of this card, and I said this to Joe at the start of the match, it was like 15 minutes of just fucking raw violence, 10 minutes of your run-ins and your sports entertainment, and they pretty much did that, and it worked a fucking treat, because by the time that everyone else was getting involved into it, we'd had a fair bit of ultra violent stuff going on up to that stage. So
it all felt
I was fine with it. Yeah, it was earned. It's absolutely earned.
And I think with the Marina stuff there that you're saying as well, like obviously on Dynamite for weeks, that obviously like she hadn't been touched, had she, for months, and then she finally was, and then she's got herself involved here, like biting Hangman, and then very quickly when he's going for that quick buckshot, and then she gets on his back, and then she just ends up getting fucking driven through the table, like on the outside as well. So again, there's been that whole thing of like, well, is it overstepping the mark kind of thing, like with her, and then again, it shows that kind of extremity. It's like dead early on. It's like, taking her out of the fucking game here kind of thing. She's going to stop me like hitting the no. You're going through them tables as well. There was no hesitation, no nothing kind of thing. There was no second guessing. It was like fucking all business here tonight, and you're not fucking interfering in my business. So again, like I thought that was just a good little wrinkle that they just built in there with Marina as well coming with part of it there. Like again, so sort of like well thought out, like early on, like just in the way that they just set like bits and pieces up there, and then you started to just get into the realms, didn't you? Of the the Marina was out of the game, so then you had like the other interference, didn't you? Start to come in here, so then you had like Claudio jumping in, and the fucking the good old Wheeler, the old shit eater getting involved
Scrappy Doo
there as well into the mix. But then the Ospreay coming down that you're thinking was like the the big save, but then Ospreay getting what Samoa Joe had done to him, like I said earlier on in the evening as well, another one getting stretched out as well. So again, still within the match, even just putting over that level of threat around the the Deathriders as a collective kind of thing of like what they can what they can do to you. They've taken out Joe, they've taken out Ospreay, who's felt like the biggest star on the show, like up until this point as well, really. So again, just the placement of that, and then for Ospreay to not get the better of them and not be the White Knight coming to save it and things like that. Brilliant setup.
I quite enjoyed the way Ospreay came up, because he wasn't wearing the full gear. I just don't think, and obviously it's a stadium, I don't think the crowd saw him until late. And then when they did see him, it was like they got onto it and they went wild, and then they were into it. And like, obviously, that's a great little story beat to have. Like, to your point, JP, about not repeating things on the show, I did kind of wish, obviously, with them doing the Pillmanizing type thing with Joe, and then doing it again with Ospreay here, I kind of wish we hadn't had the tease of the concerto with Edge and Christian, because it's quite similar in setup, obviously, with the head neck stuff. But I guess you've got to do that. You've got to do Cope's big spot when you do it. I just like getting shots in at Cope. But no, I thought that was really laid out well. Obviously, they do like the numbers advantage stuff, at this point, with obviously Claudio, as Gareth said, joining in, Gabe Kidd probably having his highlight of the night, getting involved here as well, and obviously switching the advantage back. Like that was really well done and really well slotted in. And like, again, we sound hypocritical here because we have a go Bloodline rules match and we have a go at all the interference. I do feel like this was it, and I do feel like we've been telling this story for so long. And again, I haven't loved the story. There's long stretches of the story that I fucking hated, and I still hate. I haven't completely come around on it on some of those early days. But if you were ever going to do this stuff, this numbers advantage stuff, this was your moment. Yeah, kind of had to do it, and they executed it absolutely perfectly.
Oh God, yeah, they did. And I'm surprised we haven't mentioned the bed of nails yet and the paradigm shift onto that, because that was fucking was it right on the edge of the fucking bed of nails that he delivered it. But you mentioned it, but like
Dead Eye on the Glass, I think, was first, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of did that. I mean, there was so much of it that was there. Obviously, there was the tables on the outside with the barbed wire. The violence was escalating, though, and that's how it should do. That's how a good deathmatch is done. Like, even the ones with much worse workers than these two, that's the sign of a good deathmatch. It's like, okay, what are they going to do next? How can you escalate and actually make it work, and make it work with the stakes? But they did.
You mentioned, though, about the numbers advantage they had. At that point, I started to bite on the idea of Moxley winning. I was like, no. Like, I don't know why, because logically it told me, well, you can't have that. We've had, I think the Omega Okada match and the ending for that should have been the thing that would have perhaps told us like that. No, you're getting your happy ending, guys, for this. But it was probably at the moment when Nana handcuffed Marina Shafir, just out because it was just so brilliantly done, and so like you didn't see it coming because obviously you couldn't see him, and then he came out and he did the dart, and it was just like I was like, this is fucking tremendous, and then leading up obviously to I've gone into Swerve there and missed the other two bloody big
I was going to say
spots.
Should do the middle like segments of the match there. Like I was going to say, Gareth, like it's I think so well done. Like again, if you're going to plot this out and you're going to like make this work, it was kind of like we got it in layers because we got the early stuff there with Yuta and Claudio and Ospreay being taken out, and then it had switched back to the violence, and like we even got like again to JP's point about buying that like Mox might be winning here. Like it's at this point in the match, isn't it, that we kind of get the the Gotch pile driver and the bulldog choke, and we get which is logical because if you're going to do a match where somebody's got to get up after 10, like choke them out and then leave them on the canvas and see if they get up. Like even at this point, we're getting that big. Hangman's not going to die here. Like we're layering it all on with the violence and all of the run-ins and all of the heat. But like at the center of this is this babyface who's just not going to die above all else.
And again, just that sort of like that 3-thing escalation there of like because obviously there was the suplex where he'd like suplexed him onto the barbed wire tables on the outside. So it was like Mox took as much damage there as him. That sort of like stripped like it almost like took it to that level playing field like element a bit to that point. But then immediately with that Gotch style pile driver in the ring into the bulldog choke, that's then like no, tipped it the other way. You've got your 9 count there, but that Death Rider on the chair. Like the crowd popped mega for that, and the way that was fucking it, and the way Hangman took that as well, the sound it made, like that, brutal. That looked like death kind of thing. Like like genuinely, and again up at that 9 again. So then, like Mox was kind of like taken a couple of levels there, and then that's when the plastic bag's introduced again, isn't it? Kind of thing that we've seen, previously. Obviously there, you have been the one like taking it into the ring, and then you get your boy Darby, mate.
I wonder if like this section of the match was like, I don't know, I feel like was it called in the wrong order that there's something going wrong? I'm with you, guys, because I absolutely love this thing, and I'm loving just buying into this with Hangman. I'm loving the crowd getting louder with like the cowboy ship trance. Like you can just feel how much uniformly everyone's behind them. But yeah, the baddies have got him down. It feels like all hope is lost. Yuta's got the bag. And then they play what I think is a video of Darby Allin on top of Everest. And I shouldn't undersell it because he's clearly struggling to breathe, never mind talk, because he's on the fucking top of Everest. And like, I don't even know anything about it, JP. I don't know the science behind it, but I'm certain that's really hard and you might die if you do that. I'm pretty sure that's not recommended to cut a wrestling promo on top of Everest. You can see the mask like hanging off him, can't you? That he clearly should be fucking wearing in that moment, but he's not. And like the beard, and he's all disheveled, and he's struggling to get his words out. But like, of course, Darby Allin's going to cut a promo on Everest. Like brilliance. Like it's, and again, I guess that tells you how early on, like we knew that this was, going to be at least, Hangman's story, or Darby was going to be doing a run in like this rather than going to the, the spot we all thought he might go back to, which was, literally being in Hangman's spot. So clearly when he was on Everest there, Tony Carter there gave him a text or a phone call and they got this out. But it did all go a bit weird here because it felt like Moxley I watched it back today, Moxley looks really confused. Moxley's like looks like he's saying to the ref, what the fuck's going on? Why are we doing this now? Because then Bryan comes out, not Darby. And it still works, don't get me wrong, because it's Bryan in the mask and he takes it off and it's a great moment. And despite WWE's protestations, he gets the yes chance going and it's brilliant. Then the camera goes to Darby coming down, but the fans haven't seen him yet. Then it goes back to the ring, and then Mox is like purposely distracted. Like you can see Hangman kind of pulls him to a side and starts brawling with him. Like clearly they're calling something on the fly here. And then Mox has to pretend he doesn't see Darby, even though he's right there. Once Darby does eventually come down and gets the big pop. And again, it's all brilliant. and credit to them, actually, to be fair, if something did go wrong, because they stitch it back together in a way that still massively works. But it did. I don't know if you thought the same, Gareth. It did feel like something was out of order there, or something was out. Maybe Darby, we'll find out in the days, Darby had trouble, getting down, or there was some kind of health and safety reason, or something. Again, it didn't hurt it. It was just notable that, like, it felt like they called a little bit of this fantastic segment on the fly.
Yeah, I think when I was watching it at the moment, I felt like it was almost like the Darby stuff was like misdirection for Danielson to come in, but then Darby came in anyway, and I was like, oh yeah, that felt a bit weird. kind of thing. They probably needed to hit play on that the second after Danielson had done his bit, didn't they? Really, so and have Darby down quicker. But like you say, like
maybe Danielson got stuck. Maybe he was coming down through the crowd.
I haven't thought about it to that level. I like rewatched it yet to this point, but like it didn't take a thing away from the match at this point. Like absolutely.
That's credit to the guys in him. Brilliant.
I thought it was perhaps the most Bryan Danielson thing in the world, to just be the secondary guy doing interference as a bit of misdirection for Darby Allin. I just thought, of course he is, while he's wearing a mask, because that's
flying around, bumping though, landing on his neck and stuff like that. That apparently needs surgery or whatever. He's fucking lying, isn't he? Fuck off. You wrestle tomorrow. Yeah, I'm certain of it.
He'll be there for blood and guts.
I hope so.
But I mean, but then obviously it doesn't end there, does it? Because then you've got you've got after Darby's come down, like he's Hangman can hit the buckshot, and then you've got Darby, hitting the coffin drop, and you think like this, this could be it at this point with everything that's gone through there. Hangman landing that second buckshot, and then the dead eye off the apron through the table on the outside. But Marina helping Mox back to his feet, and saying "fuck you" to Hangman, kind of thing, and then obviously you're getting the Bucks involved at this point as well. Like that was the one where it's like, oh fuck, like fuck the Bucks kind of thing. At that point, you've had everything built to that. But again, I feel like all of these like different bits of like interference that they had up to this point, they didn't overstay the welcome, did they? Kind of thing. Like it wasn't too much.
You were going to do it.
That's why, even though you had a lot of different stuff going on, because it was all quick and it was all quite rapid and things like that. Like it almost didn't feel as galling as it could be if they're sort of like hanging around, and some of these sort of like beat down and things that happen here were much longer at this point. But this is where you then get that bed of nails get rolled out here with Mox and Marina doing a grand job to lift that up and turn it and kind of get it back into the ring.
Fair play to them as well. I've seen that like bed of nails be used obviously in death matches, but you don't often take the bumps as directly as these lads were taking on it as well. But again, just another way to escalate things, isn't it? Another way to kind of bring us up. But so that's where Mox does like it's the stomp first, isn't it? And then the paradigm shift on the nails that Mox does. But like again, I love that like the Hangman cell as well. It's like if this was a shoot, I'm pretty sure there are other refs that might have called it 10 here because it's getting ropey. Hangman getting to his feet, but like that's the beauty of it, isn't it? Because I'm watching it like it's real. Going up, stand up properly, Hangman. Watch
massively
out. Your knees on the floor. Like you're only holding on by the rope. I don't know if that counts. It's fucking, but it's like proper, like by the skin of his teeth stuff, isn't it? Like selling like to that degree.
Mate, he was on his front. He was on his front at 8. Like a lot of the time, it's like he's fucked. I was just like, but it got you fucking believing. Got you absolutely believing, and for something that you would always imagine that you think, well, you kind of where this is going. Just to be able to add any levels of like sort of real drama into the mix, that's a fucking hell of an achievement. Let me do it. I was perfectly fine, even if we're defining. Well, he's literally just got feet there, even though he's effectively got his hands on the mat as well at the same time. It's like, well, we'll let that slide. We're not questioning it today, are we? We're all right with it.
And I tell you what, you talk about the Hangman cell though, like here, that paradigm shift into the nails, and then Hangman gets up at 9. The Mox cell
Mm-hmm.
of frustration. And he sort of semi-collapses in the corner himself here because he can't. What the fuck have I got to do to beat this man? Kind of thing. Like, and it wasn't. It was a perfect sell. It wasn't It wasn't an oversold storytelling, acting sell kind of thing. There was just enough there to just get across the frustration, desperation, the fatigue that Mox himself is feeling at this point. Like, you know, like that feeling of, can I beat this man kind of thing? What more can I like bring to the table to do this? Fucking class. Like, you know, you talk about like Mox's role in this match, and like little things like that, the little sells from him from that point, just great stuff. Like, great stuff at this point. And obviously we're kind of like working in towards the finish here now, aren't we? And obviously that's where JP brought it up before, where like Mox gets gets the key off Marina, tells her to get the briefcase. And that, how sleight of hand, that was Paul Daniels stuff, that wasn't it? It was fucking unreal.
I think there was like a stagehand who ran away. I was like, did he have something to do with it? Was he helping, or was he on standby or something like that? But it's so quick the way it's done, isn't it? The way Nana, I assume it's Nana, gets the handcuffs on her.
Like a man, he's quite used to putting a pair of handcuffs on someone, but enough of his private life. So.
But Marina as well, her sell of it kind of thing, the utter confusion and stuff like what,
and then trying to tell Moxley what's happened,
kind of thing. Like so good.
And it was a perfect way to introduce Swerve into the mix. It was just like the most perfect, rather than, you know, Swerve just comes out and does the rundown. Just that nice little, it's Nana, and then you know what's going to be fucking happening from there.
And it was funny. I don't know whether it's because of the amount of stuff they were doing here or just being so wrapped in the story. I kind of half forgotten about Swerve, because it's obvious, you know, with everything they did and the fact that we never reviewed Collision this week, but they dedicated an entire segment to him and Hangman kind of making peace, which I'm still surprised wasn't on Dynamite, but like clearly they were going to do something. But like, I just let it fall out the back of my head. So like, I was genuine when I saw Nana. I was like, oh, right, that's next. Okay, Swerve's coming next. Just perfect stuff, Gareth.
Do you know what? This might be my one thing, is like, I almost felt Swerve was just suddenly there kind of thing. And like, I almost kind of wanted the Swerve walks through at the top of the ramp and the whole stadium sees him and the whole stadium fucking erupts seeing Swerve. Like, I that was the only thing for me that was like, did that feel big enough? Swerve just suddenly been there, like, kind of thing. I don't know. I'll need to watch it back again and think, but I almost had visions of the whole crowd just been like, fuck, when Swerve kind of actually like emerges through the at the top of the stage. But maybe not. Maybe it didn't need that level of like grandeur. Maybe the more subtle nature of it. But
it could have been an improvement. Yeah, didn't think of it, but yeah, fair.
Still just fantastic, and obviously just the whole stuff with the chain and just throwing it back to him and then him being able to like use it and then again, we work to that kind of thing. We've obviously we've got him punching him with it. We've got the buckshot onto the bed of nails. We've got them like going back to that hang over the ropes spot that's sort of like been evaded and then back to it again and again. Mox's struggle and his facials and his his tap, like just top.
Maybe the best moment was career.
Draw stuff.
It is. It's the end of it. It's like movie villain stuff. Like it's like the end of a film where it's like the body's finally getting killed off. Like, and it's just like you say, the struggle. It's like, but it's the panic, isn't it? It's the realization in his eyes that it's all fucking over and there's nothing he can do but tap out. Like, honestly, I can't think of like a movie death that's better. Like, it is literally a death on screen, like in wrestling, of like a big character. Like, is like, I love the moment you mentioned before with Mox was great as well. Is selling there, but this was another level. This was like just unbelievably good as facials here. It was just like, wow. Like, what there was for this moment obviously is gigantic for Hangman Page and it's gigantic for what's to come and what are the moments of celebration, but it's not that good without the way Moxley does it, because as well the way they get there, like you say, they kind of go for the choke and then it's almost like, I'm not even sure it's not even a reversal when I watched it back. It's almost like the Moxley's like, bump me one more time first. And it's actually the right decision because he bumps him one more time on the bed of nails. And then he does it. And then it's like, it's perfectly like captured and perfectly like shot and just perfectly done by Moxley. It genuinely looks like he's being choked out. That's what it would look like if he was really being choked out by Hangman.
His
But with
face
the
has gone
added
red.
like acting chops of it, it's just, he puts everything into it. Like we said before about like, Mercedes putting Tony over, like this is that times 10. Like the job Moxley does here is unbelievable. What a fuck! It might be his best moment ever in his career. It's this wrestlers should watch this. This is how you put someone over. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I also want to give a shout out to that buckshot because he had very little room for maneuver in terms of landing and hitting it, and him hitting because the nails were like not really halfway over in the ring, or not over more towards the other side, which he would have given him a bit more space. It was like he had to flip himself over very close to the ropes and deliver the buckshot, and Moxley bumping onto the nails, and all of that it just worked perfectly. This was as perfect an ending to a death match as you're ever going to get. I mean, say a perfect ending to a match.
I was just going to say
that. Yeah, just it is something that has stuck with me ever since that moment, and it's like the redness in the face. You believe this man is being choked. He's probably saying, "Fucking choke me for real." Just make me react in the way that somebody would do in those situations.
They're all Nana's bedroom again. Sorry.
And it wasn't like long protracted. There was a little bit of that, but it was more like in the realm of him flailing and then just like fucking really quickly tapping. And it just, honestly, I fucking jumped up at that point. When that happened, I jumped up. I was like, fucking get in. It was just an awesome moment.
And
what a moment! What a fucking moment! Honestly, this is why we watch wrestling, isn't it? Like the feeling that you had for the start of that match and the feeling you had at the end of that match, just the presentation, the anticipation, you want the outcome kind of thing. You get the outcome and you're fucking delighted about it, and then it's delivered in such a perfect way, start to end, like bell to bell, like in between, honestly, it's
even
good.
The post match.
Good as it gets.
Like throw that in too, because again, it's been. I don't think we've really criticized the belt in a case thing really, because it's clearly been for this moment. Like that's clearly been the thing, hasn't it? It's like maybe it's flawed thinking, maybe it has made AEW feel like it didn't have a champion at certain points, but very clearly the idea was imagine the moment when whoever the babyface is finally pulls the belt out, and again, not to get into Mox's brain too much, but I think some of it as well as thinking like this world title scene needs a reset, or like we need to establish this as the proper fucking belt in AEW again and give it that prestige. Like it kind of subconsciously did that, because like the great moment of Hangman winning is obviously the moment of the night, but like to follow up with that, with him finally and struggling a little bit to get the case open, but finally getting the case open, and like it was right as his music was like just hitting that big note as he pulled it out. And credit to him, a lot of champions would have held the belt upside down at that point because it was upside down in the case. Hangman spins it round, gets it perfect, and then you get that perfect cathartic shot of him holding the belt up, everybody erupting. Like that's your 1B moment to it. It's just that's what everyone has been waiting for in this moment. And again, been a massive critic of the mock stuff, and I remain so on at least a lot of the early stuff and the middle stuff on it. But like, it has given us both things are true. It has given us this unbelievable positive moment, and it's given us this unbelievable like end moment in this story with Hangman Page, and that's the perfect way to end this too. It's just superb.
And even before the belt opened, just Hangman just sort of sitting, crying with the briefcase before he even opens it, kind of thing. It's like he's a physical ruin, is an emotional ruin at that point, kind of thing. Is like everything's been about getting your hands on this belt, kind of thing. But it's taken so much out of him on that journey and that match to get to that point, that he can't just do. It's not something he can do just like immediately. He's got to get himself back together. He's got to get himself like to and able to do that. Like again, just like the small details of that. We haven't mentioned Swerve on the ramp. Just
course,
the look of Swerve, the look, and that like after Hangman's won, that sort of like half smile kind of thing that he sort of again subtle, small kind of thing, but like just something that feels that's connected. That's a joined up part of the dots of everything that we've gone through to like get to this point. Like just so good. Like I just want to watch it again right now. Like like I've watched it the once kind of thing, and now we've just like sit here talking about it. I just need to watch it again because it's just a match. I just like hook it to my veins. It is perfect professional wrestling.
Yeah. I certainly can't ever buy any very bad faith arguments that AEW don't do storytelling. I mean, that bullshit has been finally.
Tune into GRAPPL Live on Wednesday.
And you know what? You know what though? It's the way that it's not just been like sometimes you get that storytelling and it is like a person's chase for the title and things. And I know obviously the Hangman story is one that's evolved over time, and this definitely hasn't been something that's been written out and written to be this on this point, this is going to happen kind of thing. But it's the fact that they've leaned back into certain things, and it's been this kind of bumpy road and things, but it's all been treated with some element of care, at least, that it's then meant something. Like in the end, now they've used the things that have mattered along the way to build into that, and then the fact that the way the Deathriders story has evolved, the way that they've bled Will Ospreay into it, the way that they've bled Swerve into it, as well. So they've lent on that Hangman Swerve dynamic kind of thing. They've had Ospreay and the way that he's then like played off the both of them as well. Like it's all just added. It's like incremental things that have added and built to that moment. And like like you've got, you say, like you said at the start, credit like Mox in this match. I know that I've been higher on getting into the Deathriders stuff probably sooner than you two definitely on that point. But I think that the way that they have then treated that working towards this end goal has elevated that. And I think it's maybe one of those, where you get like the wrestling things where in the moment, watching it week to week kind of thing, it's a bit like you've got that grind, haven't you, sort of thing of the week to week. I almost feel like it's a sort of thing that somebody on a podcast somewhere might revisit in 5 years' time and say the story of the Deathriders. And actually, on retrospect, when you're picking the best bits out of it and you're picking the beats along the way and things, you'd be like, actually, that was really successful kind of thing, what they did from there to there as well, because you have to, like, it went, I think we talked about this when we did GRAPPL Live last week, it's gone from that point of go away heat that it initially had with the Moxley stuff to it being genuine, proper heel, not cool heel, not trying to be liked, not trying to get cheers or anything like that. Genuine heel that you want to lose this belt. And while some people want to see the belt lost for on board of Deathriders reasons kind of thing, that moment wouldn't have been as good as it was on the pay-per-view the other night if there wasn't all them people who wanted to see the belt lost for wrestling storyline reasons kind of thing. And that is a unquestionable success kind of thing from that, and the Mox heel part of it has to be credited, I think
so. And like it's that's just you look back, would I want to sit through the Cope feud? Would I want to sit through the early moments where you had the group of jobbers standing outside the Dynamite, or the incomprehensible promos, or the weeks and months of very, very bad creative on the Moxley stable end, like of a very drab and grey and brown coloured, I think I was calling it at the time, Dynamites. No, and that remains the case. Like I don't think I'd change on that. But like if you're a booker that walks in, like you said there about Hangman, Gareth, if you're a booker who walks into a room and that is the state of play, 6 months ago, or that is the state of play 3 months ago, Hangman Page has been booked well at certain points, and then it's felt like entire years where they've just not really used him on Dynamite, or he's turned up for a month or two and fucked off. Like you can't change that if you walk in 3 months ago. but you can certainly make it part of your story going forward and turn it into a positive. And I think the same applies to Mox. Like, whatever's come before and whatever the bad feeling is, all right, well, we're at this point. And that's where I think you got to credit Tony Khan, in that there were literally press conferences 3-4 months ago where people were going, you're not listening to the internet, Tony. Like, why are you carrying on with this? And I think we probably said it too. Why are you carrying on with this? And to be fair, he stuck to his guns. And I think turned it into, as you say there, a positive. Like, you take that thing that already exists that you can't change, but what's the best possible way we can do what people want, and what's the best possible like person that he could face to do that? It's this, isn't it? Like, I can't think of a more perfect way. Like you say, Gareth, it's taken until these last couple of weeks for me to go, all right, fine, I don't hate that. I don't hate the Deathriders stuff anymore. I still don't think I ever said I liked it, but I stopped hating it at a point, because they were using that puzzle piece and using what was already there to do the best possible job of putting it away. I don't know if that was going to be the question. Would I go as far as to say it was all worth it? I don't know if I'm ready to say that yet. But like, I still think both things can be true. It was bad at the point it was bad, but the way they've ended it and the way they've used it to give us this all-time moment is some of the best stuff AEW has ever done. So, you know, there's a bit of conflict there, but yeah, you can't do anything but applaud them, applaud the creative, applaud Tony Khan, applaud Hangman Page for being the right man in this spot, and massively, as you say, Gareth, applaud Moxley for the job that he's done in this match. And yeah, at least in the the last while of TV, I can't quite pinpoint the moment it feels like it's turned around, but boy has it.
I think it was when they got some more interesting people, somewhat on the face side. I think at that point,
it's all Cope's fault. I agree.
About...
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I'm not ready to say do the ends justify the means, because we're not really at the end of the Death Rider story. I'm still convinced we get to blood and we get to blood and guts. We have there's going to be a fallout of this. I know if we were talking about WWE, it'd be walking into a whole series of rematches, and I don't want any part of that. We'll see what happens with Moxley and Darby Allin as the side feud that it should be, and put that in there for All Out. And I'm kind of like, I'm fine with that for the time being. But like, I loved this. Like, this is where it also needed to deliver. It was this moment, this match, this stadium, this setting. All of those, this is when you had to fucking nail it, was this part, pardon the pun. And they did. They stuck the ending of his title reign. And as we said before, like, how many kind of wrestling angles you see, they start off hot and they don't really have an ending, and various things happen and it kind of all balls out and then fizzles out. We've not had that. We've had it like the other way round with Moxley's title reign being sort of like a bit of a wet fart.
We might still get it. We might get Death Riders B team. We might get something like that.
But
brown shirts versus grey t-shirts, something like that. Cool.
I have enough faith over the booking of the last year that we're not going to get that, and I think they've earned that right to it as well. And really, what we want now from here is a proper Hangman title reign, and I'm feeling that they will do it, where he is the central character. He's not the fifth most important person in there. We haven't got a big Phil-sized fucking shadow over the whole thing that you're thinking, well, this is where we're going to get to next. It's like, no, actually, we can have a proper substantial title reign with it. And I think that's half of the fun of it for me. It's just like, actually, we get the Hangman stuff we should have got when he was world champion first time round. And I think we are going to get it this time.
And I think if he's going out and he's beating people and he's beating people like decisively, and he's getting that bit of moment, like you see the crowd rally behind him, that the crowd's just going to rally, they're just going to rally behind him even more now. He feels like the world champion now. It's one of these adages we say, when he was the world champion last time, he didn't feel like the biggest star in the company. He feels fucking right up there now with everything that's like built to this point. And so in the chat there mentioned about sort of like the Mox motivation and things like that. Like I keep thinking back to the early stuff where talking about like hiding the world title away, and talking about the people not being like aggressive enough and things like that, and talking about like people not wanting it enough and things like that. Like, I still think there's a world here where Mox turns around and is like, no, I won. Like it was never about the world title kind of thing. Like we locked that away. The world title didn't matter, you know. But I've created you, and I've created Swerve, and I've created Will Ospreay, and things like that. These people who wanted to fight hard to kind of, you know, sort of get rid of this plague over the company that I've sort of like introduced. I still think there's like nuance in his original, you know, some of his original promos around that title.
It
and
got
things
lost
like
in
that.
company takeover stuff.
There's a bit of like, not legs in that I want to see like Mox going in there against Hangman again though, but it doesn't. It almost doesn't mean that character side of things has to be dead. And if that's a sidebar with like Darby or something like that as well, then perfect. Yeah, just get him away from that and the world title now, and you've got something there that now feels like it can be, you know, your upper mid card sort of thing that's still got a bit of interest about it, as long as they don't sort of go too far with it. That actually feels like, well, there's meaning and justification behind this as well for them to be matches to happening. It's not just shoehorning A, B, or C into an angle now with Mox. You know, there's still layers to it that probably haven't been visited.
Yeah. And you want to close those little loops, don't you? You want to close those threads, and you want to do that. I think after that, Moxley probably should take some time off. I think that would be, I think you'll see that. Yep. You know, he's been over, but again, the used, and I think what a lot of us felt was a negative in AEW, and like the stranglehold they had on the company kind of felt very real at one point. But again, you don't get this positive payoff without that ill feeling. Like both things have become true, and they've used it to the favor. But that has still been the case. So yeah, it probably, and I think you'll recognize that probably would be good for him to, you know, be vanquished by Darby and, you know, disappear for a couple of months and come back and try something new. But yeah, maybe it's something that'll be judged fully with the breadth of time. But yeah, unless there's any more on that, that takes us. We're nodding up to the 3 hour point. We don't want to turn into full Tony Khan. Obviously, I'm going to be talking the WWE stuff with Matty in a few days. But yeah, did anybody have any more thoughts on that or the show as a whole? Again, despite our complaints about the length, which I think do remain true, like it was that good that it was still, you know, these great moments were still great. Some of the middling moments were still middling, but the great moments were so great that is probably going to be the abiding memory going forward. Absolutely for me.
That's the thing I've got written in my sort of overall thoughts of the show on here is this has to be seen as a success. The big matches all delivered. The stuff that you were selling this show on all delivered. They made 25,000 people look like 50,000. They gave it proper spectacle and grandeur across the way as well. And it was the one criticism is a legitimate criticism, and it's one of the next things, like you would say for AEW, right? Like, you need to take this on board, that kind of less is more. I know you want to get everyone on the card, but you run enough shows in order to get people regular kind of face time, but also make them, if you want to be on that big show, kind of earn it, deserve it. Like, if you're going to be on there, rather than you're part of the roster here, so going to have people up onto there as well. But all of the successes do far outweigh that. And I am hyped for where they go next. And there's a whole other series. It feels like, and this is the other thing, we've got to the halfway point of this year, and it's been booked so well this year as a product. He's done such an outstanding job of coming back and taking on board a lot of the legitimate criticisms people had about where things are going. And you go, okay, it's where do they go to from here up to December? Because if they do that, they're having like an all-timer of a year if they can nail it from here up to December.
And the signs are good.
The signs are good as well. And there's depth. There's interesting challenges for Hangman. There's challenges for Toni Storm. We are going to get more Omega Okada probably, and I'd assume at Forbidden Door we'll get Okada and Takeshita versus the Golden Lovers or something along those lines. It feels like that would be the kind of match that they could end up delivering for that. There's so much talent around here and so many interesting characters who are believable, who aren't just an entrance, who aren't just a one-word like kind of tagline, and that's the reason why I love AEW and I can't fucking stand WWE at this point in time. Do
you want to do live instead of me? I'll let you jump on with Matty. The shows were all right this weekend, but we'll get into them.
Imagine if you Yeah, you can't fucking watch the WWE stuff and ignore this stuff this weekend. They did not control
Oh, you can.
the conversation and the debate.
It's been done by someone. But yes, I did end up watching Saturday night's main event for my sins, despite my protestations about this for late. I still put that on before I went to sleep and watched the main event, but more on that on Wednesday. Gareth, closing thoughts from you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd just echo what JP says about like the length, but what I will say is the length of the pay-per-view didn't even cross my mind when I was like there in the moment, was Hangman's lifting that belt. So it just shows that, you know, when you do like succeed, that you can wipe away that like element of negativity come with it. And, you know, like, yes, there's learnings, there can always be learnings and things, you know, there was, you know, you strip that back, you go, 4 matches on that card were absolute bangers, you know that you can, you know, be happy to watch fucking any day of the week again, sort of thing, which is like a huge positive. But that main event for me was just one that'll stand long in the memory. I mean, I'm a 46-year-old man who's been watching wrestling for 4 decades, and I had genuine tears in my eyes, like when Hangman was lifting that belt up, and I'm like, what better fucking like vindication is there for watching this thing that we watch and choose to watch year on year, and we give up on it, and things are terrible and they drive us bonkers, and we've got all, you know, we can be so negative about, and but then it delivers a moment like that's been so well written, so well booked, so well performed, and it's just got you on the fucking top of the world kind of thing. There's no other form of entertainment like it is the fucking professional wrestling. Isn't it great?
We're gonna be talking about this as AEW. I think this is AEW's peak run, but again, might be early to have that conversation. But I feel like the end of this pay-per-view kind of solidified it for me, even if, you know, some old complaints today are always gonna stay. But more on that in the weeks to come. But yeah, God, am I excited to cover it. And it's just a great feeling, like you both said, to be in that frame of mind where, yeah, looking forward to the Dynamites coming up. Looking forward to, like, we get this year, it's like the great thing is we're basically getting 2 all-ins, aren't we? Because there's still the big British show to come. We got all in a name, but we're still getting the big British show in Forbidden Door coming up as well. So we get it twice plus All Out, as we said earlier as well. So excited to cover it all. And yeah, hopefully all the right lessons have been learned. And yeah, we are going to continue to head in all the right directions with AEW. But yeah, that's it as far as our all-in review goes. We didn't get a chance to talk ROH. I was going to throw it in quickly, but I very much Bandido Takeshita, people should watch. It's not worth doing a full match review at this past 3 hours, because people are going to kill us for criticizing a 6-hour pay-per-view but going over 3 hours in the audio. So I'm keeping this short. Great fucking match. Everyone should watch it. Athena Thunder Rosa was very good too. And yeah, didn't go the way maybe some were expecting, but maybe I'll cover it Wednesday. I don't know, because obviously, as I've been alluding to, I am doing a GRAPPL Live on Wednesday. It is with young Matthew. Who knows what he will have seen, but obviously, yeah, with the Saturday main event, Evolution, and maybe NXT to cover there as well. So I don't know what airspace I'll get to talk more about that, but it was a great little accompaniment to the weekend as well, and hope maybe weekend show or something we could maybe talk about it a bit more. Unless I wanted to say anything very quickly.
I haven't got anything else to add on, unless you just want me to do the sign-off line.
Gareth?
Bye. Go on.
No.
Bye, y'all.
Good night.
See ya.
I'll see you on Wednesday.